anybody remembers it, but yeah, no. But you've been a part of this recruiting process, and what I'm saying is, what do you think about this law and how Harbaugh's handling it? Law.
The law. I mean, I think the NCAA in general is like a problem, and however you get the money to the players, get the money to the players.
Right.
Is my feeling. So if you gotta hire their daddy to give them the money that they deserve, do that. If you gotta hire his little sister to be the D-line coach, like I really don't care. And they're changing the rules in order to minimize the leverage that the players have, but I like it. I mean, I understand why people would be uncomfortable with it, but that means that I am uncomfortable with the system as it currently is constructed. So anytime when you can do something to force people to see the absurdity of the system, which is what he's doing by hiring that, I'm on board with that. So thank you, James Joseph Harbaugh, for disrupting this and making sure that everyone can see how much of, I'm sure he wasn't doing this for this purpose. He's doing this because he needs a national championship. But either way, he doesn't care about the NCAA and their stupid rules. He cares about getting the best players in. And if he could put some of his money in that dude's pocket, he would do that. If that got, yes, he would.
Don't be serious.
I guarantee
we
you.
don't know. He actually hasn't he's not like Dabo. I don't think he's weighed in on how he feels about paying the players. He's definitely not come out strong against it. But you guys, he's done this before. I remember 2 years ago, he hired someone's mom and made her, I want to say, director of player development or something. And then he did it again last year. So he's done this a bunch of times. I agree with Dominic. I feel like it exposes the fact not only that, you know, the lengths they'll go to get these players without paying them, but the fact that they have money swirling around. A lot of times with the NCAA argument, you hear people saying, well, they're barely breaking even, you know, if you really look at the programs. But that's because they're spending money on stuff like coaches and random executives and making gold-plated locker rooms and stuff. So when they're out here hiring these people for random positions, it just shows that they have the money and they have to spend it in random ways.
You're listening to The Morning Roast on ESPN Radio. Mita Kimes, Clinton Yates, Dominic Foxworth. This is ultimately, though, why I am not giving him this much credit for this move. If he wants to be subversive to the NCAA and yada yada, I don't care about that. Why don't you just come on out and say, as the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, arguably the most storied football program in America, that you want to pay your players? That would go way further than some side move of hiring somebody's dad for the sake of getting a recruit. Come on.
I would agree that he's not doing it in order to disrupt the system and be subversive, but that is a byproduct nonetheless. He's doing it because he wants to win football games, and he doesn't care if it's how he gets them there. He just doesn't want to break the rules. If it were legal to pay players, I guarantee you Jim Harbaugh would be paying players. So I think that I actually had this conversation, a debate, frankly, with several athletic directors, including Ward Manuel, who's the athletic director for Michigan. And the point that you were making, Mina, is absolutely right, is they try to argue, we're not making that much money. Right. And in the same sentence, he's like, but we're building $100 million facility. Right. Like, calm down. You just built a new facility 10 years ago. How about you break that up, cut that up?
Right.
And distribute it amongst your workers.
There's a difference between revenue and profits, not to belabor the point. But Jim Harbaugh is the highest paid coach in college football, too. He makes more than Nick Saban. I actually think he would probably sacrifice some of that salary if it came down to, you know, having to compete for the best quarterbacks and whatever. Yeah.
No, I think Jim Harbaugh is, and this is me playing a little bit of armchair psychologist, but I think Jim Harbaugh is about that winning life.
Yes.
He's not necessarily about stockpiling money. Like, I think he would give back. Isn't he famous for wearing Walmart khakis all the time?
This is not armchair psychology. You watch the guy. He's a competitive freak. Like, anyone can see he's about that winning life. He values that more than anything.
Yeah, so I think he would. Clinton kind of bucked back when I said if he could pay out of his pocket, he would. I think he would. If he thought that a recruit would come, he would hand over $100,000 if he thought that recruit would win him a championship.
Then why hasn't he said as much?
Because he doesn't care. He's not looking to break the rules. He's just looking to do whatever he can. I don't think people who speak out want to change the system. He doesn't care about changing the system. He cares about winning in the current construct.
You ever met him?
Yeah.
Really? What was he like?
We didn't have like dinner.
What's up with his handshake game?
His handshake game is what you would expect.
Intense eye contact?
It's overly aggressive. Right. Yeah, it's a real physical. I played for his brother, who is the better Harbaugh.
Who's very different from him, right?
Yeah,
personality-wise?
He's a human. And I like that about him. He's like a normal human guy, and he's a better football coach, despite the fact that he doesn't get as much credit and accolade.
Wow!
I mean, Super Bowl matched up. Who won? The better football coach.
Wait! But one of them benefited from NFL-wide conspiracy. How can you suddenly?
You know who benefited? The other Harbaugh, Jim, was the one who benefited. The Ravens were in control of that game. Then the lights went out. The conspiracy started, and that still was not enough to bring down the better Harbaugh, Baltimore Harbs.
Do you think Jim was in on it?
Of course.
No.
He
threw the switch?
No, he's too erratic. They wouldn't trust him with that information. They would never trust him with that information.
Get your NFL conspiracies here every day.
Paul Feinbaum had a great little interaction with Jim, too, because in a tweet, here's what Harbaugh tweeted. He said, Pete Feinbaum, the unabashed SEC water carrier, really needs to get his facts straight. # alternative facts. A lot in there. Number one is that Paul Feinbaum's name is not Pete.
So good. He knows that. Jim Harbaugh knows that.
Which is so petty. But what makes it even better is that Paul, on his show the next day, put up Pete Feinbaum show. They changed the logo, so he sort of threw it back at him. It was good.
If you don't follow Jim Harbaugh on Twitter, change that and change your life. He's so crazy. I mean, everyone's familiar with his language. Like, I remember when the stuff happened, was it last year, where they were talking about the rumors of his dismissal, and he said, a lot of this talk is coming from our enemies. We know them as jive turkeys.
Yeah,
Do you remember that he was saying that? He tweets like that, too, like very dramatic, over the top, almost like older language. I really think it's not a put on, too. That's the way he talks.
Yo, his bio says University of Michigan, Jay Ira and Nikki Harris family head football coach.
Oh, so that's where the money's coming from.
Yeah, but like, what family head football are they playing? What?
No, so like they do this for professorships also. Like you can have someone donate the money. I'm assuming that's what they're doing. People donate the money in order to fund a particular program
So
or
it's like
particular
a sponsorship.
Essentially, it's like, if you give us $10 million or X amount of money, we will name this position after you. And they do that for athletic directors. It's like the same way as you name a building, you name a position.
We need like the Verizon offensive coordinator, the drone defensive coordinator brought to you by Intel or something. And a drone drops him into the stadium every game. Make it happen,
That would be
Intel.
excellent. The tweet that he has up right now is a picture of him with Allen Iverson. Check this out on Twitter. @CoachJim4UM. AI's got some short chains on, and Jim is very particularly wearing his glasses in a look I like to go to a lot. The sweater with the shirt with the button-down collar. That was my look back when I was a serious journalist.
I like the idea of us making this all business. You guys know my theory, or not my theory, but my idea that NFL quarterbacks should start to sell their cadences.
Yo.
Wait, I didn't know this theory.
You don't know? It's
Tell
not
me.
a theory. It's an idea.
Oh, yeah.
I think that you go up to the line and you say like blue, said red, Oscars. You say a bunch of words to signal, Omaha, the sort of thing. Why can't you just sell those to, I don't know, Radio Shack or ESPN? You get up
Snapchat.
there, morning roast on 9 to 12, 9 to 12. Ready, set.
Wait, we should fundraise to convince an NFL player to name a play after the morning roast. Like a
Brilliant
Kickstarter
idea.
or something. Yeah, thank
It
you.
is a genuinely brilliant idea from Dominic Foxworth.
Don't sound so surprised.
You're a genius, man.
Every now and then it happens.
Yeah, I mean, I am honored to be in the presence of a mind, two Ivy League minds
Gosh,
like yourself.
She's bringing you down with me, Mina.
I'm just the lowly brother from DC.
I'm not saying anything.
That's taking a white girl to a barbershop. I'm Clinton Yates, Mina Kimes,
a good
and
summary of
Dominic
the show.
Foxworth are here with me. It's the Morning Roast on ESPN Radio. Coming up, we gonna talk about the NBA.
Oh, change the show name.
14 finalists were unveiled Saturday for this year's Basketball Hall of Fame induction class. Jay Williams reacts to all the nominees, including Tracy McGrady, Chris Webber, Rebecca Lobo, and more. Monday on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Most Tuesdays are just Tuesdays, except at Buffalo Wild Wings, where Tuesdays are Wing Tuesdays. But now even Wing Tuesdays aren't just Wing Tuesdays, because Wing Tuesdays are half-price Wing Tuesdays, which means your boring Tuesday that became Wing Tuesday now costs you half as much. In case you're confused, we have half-price Wing Tuesdays. We do it for you. Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports.
Prices and participation vary. See participating locations for details. Void where prohibited.
Progressive presents Mindfulness with Flow.
You are in the middle of the ocean on a raft, finding coverage options that fit your budget. As you listen to the ebb and flow of the tide. Your budget, the ebb. Our coverage, the flow. Why tetherball isn't considered a real sport? Unknown.
Be at one with your budget with the Name Your Price tool. Visit Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
It's 4th and goal. This fan's deep into a game even though he's on a bus. Looks like he's watching NFL Mobile on Verizon. He's sitting forward and now he's waking up his friend to watch. They're both watching Touchdown. With Verizon, he's used no data. And I just missed my stop.
Watch live, local, and primetime games on your phone with NFL Mobile. Exclusively on Verizon. All in HD without using your data. Only on America's best network.
Available to Verizon Wireless postpaid customers over LTE. Other app activities such as downloading and browsing incur data usage. Additional terms apply. See dzw.com/NFL Mobile for details.
This is the sound of everyday engine threats like gunk, wear, and corrosion, unleashing their wrath on your engine. Now, this is the sound of Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline, providing the best total engine protection you can get. Period. Think all premium fuels are the same? Think again. Choose Shell V-Power Nitro Plus today.
Check out my latest find, a Babe Ruth autographed baseball I bought from University Archives. Okay, I'm on universityarchives.com. Abraham Lincoln, Muhammad Ali, Marilyn Monroe, Einstein, a book signed by the first 40 Super Bowl MVPs. These are unbelievable.
Own a museum-quality piece of America's history, from signed rare books and letters to other personal possessions of the most iconic figures of past and present. Go to universityarchives.com, where you can bid on truly remarkable collectibles.
Monday morning with Greeny and Golick. Peter Rosenberg fresh from the NBA Celebrity Game. Plus Booger McFarland and Jay Williams. It's Mike and Mike. Starting at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. The NBA All-Star Game. Today.
Here's Curry behind the back. Half-court heave on its way. And he hits it!
Coverage begins today at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Monday on Mike and Mike, KD and Russ, Sir Charles and King James, and somehow the biggest story from All-Star Weekend could be Kyrie Irving?
Kyrie, the earth is flat, right?
Yeah.
Full reaction from NBA All-Star Weekend 2017 with Jay Williams and Peter Rosenberg. Plus, the NBA trade deadline is Thursday. Who's on the move? And looking at this year's 14 Basketball Hall of Fame nominees, the guys have all the latest Monday on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
This one's good if it goes. Oh, goodness. Cow. Are you kidding me?
The ACC and Big 12 tournament.
Are you kidding?
Coming in March to ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
ESPN Radio honors Black History Month. Go to theundefeated.com for the Undefeated 44, a collection of dreamers, geniuses, innovators, and record breakers. This is not a list of the greatest African Americans of all time. It's simply the Undefeated 44.
I still have a dream. I stand here today humbled by the task before us.
In the great tradition of African American culture.
For more stories on Black history, go to theundefeated.com. The Undefeated. Not conventional, never boring.
I only have one phone. Dominique has two. So does Paul Pierce. You're listening to The Morning Roast on ESPN Radio. Tune in tonight for the 66th annual NBA All-Star Game live from New Orleans. Coverage begins at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ESPN Radio. ESPN Radio is, of course, presented by Progressive Insurance, creators of the Name Your Price tool. Choose from a range of coverage options and pick the price that works for you.
I don't have two phones.
I know, it was fun to say.
I know, but you put, as a married man, there's only a couple reasons why anyone.
Is that what that always means?
I hadn't thought about
No,
that.
it's not. There's only a couple reasons why you need two phones. One is for work. Maybe you work.
One for the plug and one for the load.
Yeah. Well, if you are a pharmaceutical salesman, then you need a second phone. And the other one is you need a bat phone because you don't want somebody picking up your phone and finding who you're talking to, what you're talking about.
A burner.
Yeah. A burner. It doesn't have to be romantic. It could be your employer, maybe a little Edward Snowden kind of thing.
I was thinking of a work phone when I said that.
I had a work phone and a personal phone at one point.
See?
I hated it.
I did too for like 3 weeks, and I hated it also.
Yeah.
It was so annoying.
I couldn't do 2 phones. But
Paul Pierce has 2 phones.
That's why we brought that up, because there were a lot of things that happened last night at the NBA All-Star Weekend that were not the dunk contest, such as the 3-point challenge. Eric Gordon won that. Didn't know he was in the league. Not gonna lie.
He's good.
It's like, tag. Look at that guy. Good
He's
for
a
him.
good player.
My man Crap Snaps Bazingas won the skills challenge.
That was
AKA
cool.
Kristaps Porzingis.
That was a genuine surprise to me.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? 3-6 Latvia. That dude got game. He can do a lot. I really, really like him. But
you are in here with these nicknames.
Oh, dog.
You got any more Kristaps nicknames that you need to get out?
Can't say those on the radio, fam. There's a lot of good ones. But what did you think, Mina? What was your favorite point of the night that was not the dunk contest?
My favorite point of the night was after the charity 3-point thing for Craig Sager Foundation or something. They were raising money when they randomly asked Sagerstrong, to come out and take a half-court shot. I thought Steph was surprised. He did not look like he was expecting it at all. So they asked him how many shots does he need to make it for the additional, I think, $400,000 or whatever. And he said 3. He comes out. He misses like 10. It was so awkward. I loved every second of it.
So I disagree. There's no chance that he was surprised.
He looked surprised.
He looked genuinely surprised.
He's in courtside in a hoodie and regular pants. Who would come up to him and be like, hey, why don't you come out here and shoot these half-court shots without giving him the heads up? Like, they had to tell him. And he acted surprised, and he went on to embarrass himself and make a warm moment kind of awkward.
The reason why I know that it wasn't him is because, rather that he was surprised, is because when they started calling people's names up and Candace Parker came up, and she's in full heels, I'm like, I'm fairly certain if she knew or cared that she was going to have to be shooting, she might have chosen a different shoe selection. Maybe I'm wrong, because she could bust me down in a basketball game in 12-inch heels at any time. I'm just saying, like, nobody appeared to be prepared for that moment, including Steph.
Were you impressed that DJ Khaled made a shot, a 3-pointer?
I'm impressed every time DJ Khaled does anything, to be clear. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's never clear to me what he does, right?
That's my point.
He doesn't sing, he doesn't rap, he doesn't dance, but he's still there.
Oh, he's rapped before.
But you are right in saying that he doesn't rap. He raps in the same way that I rap. I make words rhyme.
I like DJ Khaled being there. Your homie Giffietti was there as well. That was interesting. I don't know. I felt like last night was the first time I don't know. I liked it overall. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's felt like, oh man, we're jamming in a lot of company names. We're doing a lot of things that don't seem genuine. But I feel like for the first time in a while, not that they got it right, but it felt really good. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it was in New Orleans.
And there was the NBA. There were a lot of people joking about how if it was the NFL, they would have made the foundation like buy ad space, and it would have been really awkward. There's always something about the NBA where it just feels a little bit looser, a little bit more natural. They do the stuff that the fans actually want most of the time, and it just goes a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite part is always the courtside outfits. That brings me great joy, and it obviously, I'm getting older, and many of the new players are coming in are around the same age. So the further I get away from what is cool makes me so happy and sad at the same time. It's like, oh, so the kids think a sparkly leather jacket is popping now.
I mean, John Wall was wearing sunglasses.
Oh, yeah.
Inside.
So was Paul Pierce, who is older than me.
Hey, Clinton, you wore sunglasses on television.
It was Miami.
Inside.
You were indoors.
You were indoors.
There's a window. I'm reaching. I'm just saying. I like those sunglasses. I didn't think it was a bad look. And by the by, I wore those on my head, not on my eyeballs. I might have put them on at one point. I can't remember.
So is Paul Pierce too old to be wearing sunglasses indoors while holding 2 phones?
You know,
is there an age cutoff for these things? Because I found it interesting that there were like people like Paul Pierce and Dwayne Wade, like people were there watching the game who were not playing in the game, who had no reason to be there. Like, I feel like if I was a basketball player and I was not involved, the last place I would want to be on my week off is at basketball stuff.
Speaking of which, that's exactly what Carmelo Anthony said when he was asked about whether or not he wanted to be selected, which was very interesting. He said it was a downer. And I was like, yo, where are the Knicks right now where my man straight up says, I'm not here for the All-Star game? I mean, I'm just saying, of all people, he needs a break from the league.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Considering the state of that franchise, to hear one of your headline players say that has to be a blow to the league.
But it felt like a pity vote, right? a little bit. Like, you don't want to be the pity vote at the All-Star game where the whole narrative is just who would have been better than him.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, if you are going through what he's going through, can you think of a worse place to be where all the media is at one place at one time and you have to answer questions about Phil Jackson and Charles Oakley all week? Like, he wanted to go on a vacation.
He was like, ask me if the earth is flat. That's what I want to talk about. Please, just ask me anything.
I respect it, though, because even though my man is making bazillions of dollars, when they asked him the reason he was most upset, he said, well, those tickets aren't refundable. And I was like, yo. My man is out here counting them pennies. You know what I'm saying? Because whatever that cost him, I'm sure I would have no idea, but he probably ain't missing it. But he knows when you don't get that money back, that's a problem. My favorite moment of the night came during the Sager Strong portion of it, when Shaq lifted up Sager's youngest son Ryan to dunk the basketball to end it. That was a really cool moment. Shaq, everybody forgets every once in a while that Shaquille O'Neal is a massive human being, on top of the fact that he's a funny dude who can rap like a mug. Sidebar.
Craig Sager's son, better basketball than Steph, by the way. Yeah, he made points, Steph made 0.
It's very true. It was a good weekend, though. I liked it. I think that the NBA All-Star Game is something I would like to go to at some point of my life. Would you come?
Hint, ESPN.
I would go with you. I've been before. It's a cool event. Football players love the NBA All-Star.
Why is that?
Because it's like Black Woodstock. Like it's where all the black people go. Like young, certain age, it's like a big thing. And you go there, you have a good time. Sometimes you get arrested, as happened at the Vegas All-Star Weekend for many football players.
Off the chain.
Yeah, football players love All-Star Weekend.
Well, you know, if I went, I would have to go with you, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to get into any parties. Mina Kimes, Dominique Foxworth, Clinton Yates, The Morning Roast on ESPN Radio. What a
The 2017 NBA All-Star Game. DeRozan, Kyrie, and LeBron lead the Eastern Stars into New Orleans.
Butler throws it down with 2 hands. Wow. Kyrie Irving. James splits a double, drives and throws it home.
To face the West, led by Kawhi, Durant, and Curry.
James Harden stirring it up. Durant throws it down. Nothing but net. Steph Curry.
Coverage begins today at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Hi, this is Maury Moreland Morrison, here to tell you Geico has more than just great savings. Much more. Geico's been around for more than 75 years, back when they were using Morse code. Sorry, that's just my sense of humor. What's more, with Geico you get 24/7 access to licensed agents on the app, online, or over the phone, so you can talk to them at night or in the morning. So forevermore, just know that no other auto insurer has more than Geico. More power to you. Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
This just in, Wendy's is adding the quarter-pound double stack as an option in the 4 for $4 for a limited time. With so much beef, that's a deal so good it should not exist. In related news, because their wings are too small for their bodies, bumblebees should not be able to fly. Here to comment, bees.
Wait, we're not supposed to fly? Kinda like how a quarter-pound of beef should not be in the 4 for $4.
Yet it is. That's over a quarter-pound of fresh beef with 4 nuggets, fries, and a Coke, all for just $4. Any other bee puns?
No, we're good, honey.
At participating Wendy's for a limited time. Meal includes 4-piece nuggets, small fries, and drink. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada. Not valid in Alaska and Hawaii.
Now that Applebee's Bourbon Street Chicken and Shrimp is only $9.99, ordering dinner just became a no-brainer. And that means you can spend more time on life's bigger questions, like which appetizer to get. Price and participation may vary. See restaurant for details.
Monday on Mike and Mike, KD and Russ, Sir Charles and King James, and somehow the biggest story from All-Star Weekend could be Kyrie Irving?
Kyrie, the earth is flat, right?
Yeah. Full reaction from NBA All-Star Weekend 2017 with Jay Williams and Peter Rosenberg. Plus, the NBA trade deadline is Thursday. Who's on the move? And looking at this year's 14 Basketball Hall of Fame nominees, the guys have all the latest Monday on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
When you drive your vehicle for the first time, you want to make sure it stays as good as new for as long as possible. That's why you should make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics with Pure Plus technology, a modern motor oil made from natural gas and designed to protect your engine against wear. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today and let the performance speak for itself. Save $2 per quart on any qualifying Pennzoil purchase. See Pennzoil.com/rebate for more information.
ESPN Radio honors Black History Month. How did the world-famous Harlem Globetrotters, known for their fun-loving and entertaining style of basketball showmanship, deal with racism off the court from their inception in 1927 through the civil rights era of the 60s?
In our 90 years,
We have played on 6 continents, 122 countries and territories. We've been all over the world, putting smiles on kids' faces.
Their story on ESPN's TheUndefeated.com. The Undefeated. Not conventional, never boring.
The NBA on ESPN Radio.
James drive, puts it up with an emphatic right hand. Out to Curry and another three's up and in.
Now available on the ESPN app. Russillo and Cannell.
I like Draymond a lot. I just think he's incredibly wrong here. Dolan is an owner. He is an owner of a franchise, not an owner of a person. So he can be wrong. None of us can like him, but he can also just be doing something to Oakley that's wrong just because he doesn't like the guy. Am I so naive to think we could still maybe have things in present day that are just about one guy not liking someone else and not making it about a historical event?
Russillo and Cannell on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm John Ryder. LeBron James will be making his 13th straight All-Star Game start for the East tonight in New Orleans. That's tied with Celtics great Bob Cousy for the longest streak in NBA history. And Russell Westbrook is seeking his 3rd straight All-Star Game MVP. He's the only player to win the award in 2 straight seasons, but that hasn't been the talk this weekend. It's been centered around the awkward reunion of Westbrook and Kevin Durant as teammates for the West. Mavericks owner Mark Cuban's thoughts.
There's always drama in the NBA, one way or the other. Guy gets traded, right? Guy got into a fight, guy got kicked out of a game, whatever. Guys have beef off the court, whatever it is, there's always drama. Of all the dramas we have, this is an itsy drama, right? And so, to me, that's good for the NBA. Kevin Durant had every right to switch teams. He did, right? Now, I like when we have a bad guy team, right? A villain team. Of course, it's going to be a little bit sensitive between him and a former teammate.
And you can tune in to find out what happens with Westbrook and Durant and the rest of the All-Stars with the 66th annual NBA All-Star Game right here on ESPN Radio tonight with coverage starting at 7:30 Eastern. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver says that he and Players Association Executive Director Michelle Roberts agree that the NBA age minimum needs to be studied more. Silver noted that it requires to take a new look and a new approach to the issue. Currently, the early entry age for the NBA draft is 19 years old. Georgia head basketball coach Mark Fox said today that Bulldogs leading scorer Deontay Mayten is out indefinitely after spraining his right knee in yesterday's loss to 13th-ranked Kentucky. Golf, 3rd round of the Genesis Open is underway at Riviera. Dustin Johnson has the lead at 12 under. He's 2 shots in front of Pat Perez and Cameron Tringali.
Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Steph Curry, and the Western Conference All-Stars take the court against LeBron James, Isaiah Thomas, Jimmy Butler, and the Eastern Conference All-Stars. The NBA All-Star Game, tonight at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
You ain't gonna rap, Dom.
I'll give it to you. What? Tell me up. Yo.
It's the Morning Roast on ESPN Radio.
You cut me off. I was just about to get into my bars.
He loves this bit. Presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests appear via the show opens on Performance Line. Tweet us on the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed, at Clinton Yates, at Mina Kimes, at Foxworth24. Reminder, you can catch us tomorrow, hosting Russillo and Cannell.
What?
1-4.
Word.
Dom's going to rap. That's a lie. Tune in tonight for the 66th Annual NBA All-Star Game live from New Orleans. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time on ESPN Radio. Let's go.
Morning roast. I'll get you next time. My headphones not working.
He'll get us next time, guys.
My headphones not working. No, it's my left ear. I wasn't hearing it.
We'll see about that.
Where your bars at, Mina Kimes?
I'm not
with
the one
rhymes,
always.
all the times.
Wow.
Dominique Fox, a lot of talk, never drops.
Wow. Structured.
Yo, I'll battle coming off the commercial, walk through these bars like Herschel.
Not bad.
I'm done.
Not bad.
Herschel Walker, commercial.
Right.
Walker.
Nobody knows who Herschel Walker is.
Because I'm old.
Yeah,
that's all right.
That's right. Old football guys. Not for this show. So, speaking of things for this show, Mr. Calipari, who is the head coach of the Kentucky Wildcats, they played against Georgia. yesterday. They won that game. Georgia's given them a couple tough games. I know that because I've actually watched that team play. They almost beat them. And Georgia's coach is apparently on the hot seat. Now, Calipari is probably, I don't know, there's a coach. Look, I don't know that any other coach in America has the job security that he does, to be quite frank, simply because of the way he runs his operation and the level of success that they have. There's no reason Kentucky would ever really fire him unless he did something insane. But then again, Rick Pitino's done a lot of crazy things too, and, who knows. But he spoke up about the matter, and basically he went on sort of an extended rant about how he feels college basketball coaches are being treated in the NCAA. Let's hear it.
We're firing coaches in midseason. Are you shitting me? We're firing coaches in midseason. You know what I'm putting in my contract? You can fire me at midseason, but you're going to have to pay me $3 million. Oh, you'll let me stay now, won't you? There's a new one that's going to be in the contract, Dwayne. You can fire me midseason, but you're paying me. I mean, why would I even have to think of that? Now, every coach in the country, put it in your contract. What if Mark Gottfried goes at the end and goes on a run, gets to the NCAA tournament, which he was in 4 out of 5 years, 2 Sweet 16s, which is not done at NC State. What happens now if he goes and he wins and he gets another team? He had good players, but they're young. They're like my team. It's hard to do this with young guys.
It's an interesting take. He's referring to Mark Gottfried, head coach of NC State, who was fired but said he wanted to stay on until the end of the season, which I thought was a rather sort of admirable role. I mean, it's a team he put together. He's grown a bond with those guys, and he wants to finish it out. Mina, what do you think about Calipari's stance?
I mean, it makes me think about what we were talking about earlier, which is when is a coach ever going to come out and say pay the players? I didn't think about this, but now as we're talking about it, Calipari seems like a natural candidate for that. He's come out and said he supports one and done. He, if anything, has been most transparent, I think, about sort of the machinations of being in the NCAA and coaching and what really happens with players. That said, he has not come out and done that. It's always hard for me to listen to that and say, oh, yeah, I support you when you're being quiet on this other subject, when you benefit from unpaid labor, when you coach in an industry where, sometimes players aren't allowed to transfer, say. It's kind of hard for me to sympathize with that. I don't know.
I mean, I respect that he's putting on for his crew. He caped up for the coaching profession. I don't agree with what he said, but I respect that he's defending them and he has some bit of loyalty, despite the fact that he is competing with them on a regular basis. He has some bit of loyalty for his crew, and as the most powerful coach, or one of the most powerful coaches in college basketball, for him to kind of take up this cause is admirable and respectable. But to get that angry about a coach getting fired mid-season, to me, seems absurd. Like, coaches get fired. That's part of the business. Like, you knew that before you got in. You're going to have to, your family's going to have to move around.
At least you're getting paid.
Yeah, and it stinks. Yeah, and that brings us all back to this same point that he should cape up for the players. Like, those are the guys who actually need to this protection. And he said it so angrily, which made me not necessarily want to defend him. But he's right. If you have a problem with it, don't complain about it. Get it in your contract. It might require you to give up some of your salary, but if that security is so important, get something in your contract that requires them to pay you an exorbitant fee to cut you mid-season. Otherwise, be quiet.
I'm not buying any of this from Calipari. Like, at all. Are you kidding me? It's not a $50 million extension, and you're worried about the notion that you might possibly get fired? What kind of foolish privilege is that? Yeah, but you might get canned if you do something whack or your team sucks. That is exactly what the business is. Like, I genuinely do not understand what his outrage is. If his point is that schools are too quick to fire people based on things that aren't necessarily what he feels the most important, such as winning, which in college, a lot of people don't really care about winning. I mean, let's be honest here. Yes, it is the bottom line, but if you're going to go by what the NCAA is allegedly calling student athletes, you've got to presume that there are things in life that coaches add to their players' experience that goes beyond whether or not there's W's in that column. So per that, okay, maybe it is a little whack to fire guys midseason, but just because he doesn't want to feel uncomfortable, like, get out of here with that.
I mean, it's funny that we take the same point and come to a different conclusion. The only thing that's commendable to me about this is that obviously he's not in any danger and he still went out there. And that's the only thing that is commendable, that he's caping up for the coaches who don't have that. Again, the thing that makes me uncomfortable is like, why don't you defend the players? Those are the players. Those are the people who need the defense in this situation. It's not coaches who have contracts and have negotiated them and understand that you might get fired if you don't win enough basketball games. I'm sorry, it sucks,
Right.
but it's the business that you're in.
I think that the fact that their security of their jobs, because they don't have like tenure like professors, right, is tied to winning, which is a function of their job. That's part of the reason they get paid so much. Right. So like the compromise would be, okay, maybe you have tenure like a normal professor, but you actually you're not the highest paid person at the university. I mean, that's just part of being a coach. Is winning is sort of what is the key to your extraordinarily high pay.
But I don't think he has a problem with coaches being fired. You're listening to The Morning Roast on ESPN Radio. I'm Dominique Foxworth. That's Clinton Yates, and Mina Kimes is here. I don't think that his issue is with coaches being fired at all. It's just the mid-season thing that rubs him the wrong way altogether. And I guess when you are invested in a team and you believe that you have a whole season, the point that he was making is they might make a run at the end of the year. And I guess I could understand that, but there's also this point where recruiting's so important. So the sooner you fire your coach and the sooner you can have a leg up on finding your next coach, the better off you'll be in the offseason. So that's part of the business. It seems to me like a somewhat ridiculous thing to be upset about. But again, our opinions are often determined by our perspective. And when you're a coach, you probably feel like you are being mistreated in this situation when the rest of us who aren't coaches don't feel bad for you.
I just didn't love him saying, you know what I'm putting in my contract? You're going to pay me $3 million. And it's like, look, that's the world you're living in, where $3 million is just sort of the odd number you throw out there when you can't give a kid $500 to eat.
A kid
at Cheesecake
who
Factory
could
every
get
once in a while?
benched mid-season, by the way, at any time based on
Right.
his performance. And that's not pay, but being a player in this environment, getting those minutes is what ultimately leads to you getting paid down the road.
Yeah. I mean, players do go year by year on their, in many cases, year by year on their scholarships.
Yeah.
So coaches can go year by year or week by week on their contracts. So it doesn't seem that outrageous to me.
Yeah, I'm not buying it from Calipari. I mean, he's just not the guy to deliver this message for me.
That's always the
But I
issue.
mean, but who is the guy to deliver the message? The guy to deliver message is the guy
who got fired.
But no one cares. No one's going to listen to that guy because you didn't know his name 30 minutes ago. Like, Calipari is caping up for his crew because he has an audience. I respect it.
Fair enough.
I guess, do you think you would take it more seriously if Calipari did support paying the players and came out and just became an advocate for? Do you feel like part of the issue is that he's inconsistent in his defense of labor?
Incomplete is more so what it
Incomplete.
is. I don't necessarily think it's inconsistent. It's just like, hey man, there is more to do here. And if you've got so much security, will you do it? But he's not. He's out here yelling about $3 million. Hey, coming up, we're going to talk about Russell Westbrook.
Couch cushion money.
And what may happen. Dominic Foxworth, Clinton Yates, Mina Kimes, The Morning Roast on ESPN Radio.
14 finalists were unveiled Saturday for this year's Basketball Hall of Fame induction class. Jay Williams reacts to all the nominees, including Tracy McGrady, Chris Webber, Rebecca Lobo, and more. Monday on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. KD and Russ, Phil and Mello, Sir Charles and King James, and somehow the biggest story from All-Star Weekend 2017 could be Kyrie Irving. Details Monday on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Progressive presents Mindfulness with Flow.
You feel yourself getting lighter with each Progressive discount. Paperless, safe driver, multi-car. Yes, lighter, like a new line of sneakers. Or a slugger on a crash diet the week before spring training. Stay away from the cheesecake.
Ascend to a higher plane of insurance with Progressive. Visit Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
ESPN. Supported by Blue Apron. Blue Apron partners with sustainable farms, fisheries, and ranchers to bring you all the ingredients you need to create incredible home-cooked meals. Ingredients come paired with an easy-to-follow recipe card delivered to your door weekly in a refrigerated box. Rediscover how fun cooking can be while enjoying specialty ingredients and exploring new flavors and cuisines. Get your first 3 Blue Apron meals free, plus free shipping by visiting blueapron.com/ESPN.
This week in sports history, February 22nd, 2001. Warren Moon officially retires from the NFL after throwing for 49,325 yards and 291 touchdowns. NFL Films.
Warren Moon is looking for Ernest Gibbons. He's got him in the corner of the end zone. Touchdown!
25 years of ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio honors Black History Month. Willie O'Ree is often called the Jackie Robinson of hockey. Learn how O'Ree, who made his NHL debut on January 18, 1958 with the Boston Bruins, was able to play despite being legally blind in his right eye.
I didn't realize at the time that I had broken barriers and opened doors. It wasn't until I read it in the paper.
His story and more on ESPN's TheUndefeated.com. The Undefeated. Not conventional, never boring. This is the Stephen A. Smith Show.
So if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers and you indeed had an opportunity to swap Kevin Love for Carmelo Anthony, how you feeling right now? And if you're LeBron James and you know they had the opportunity to do that, but passed on it, and Kevin Love finds himself in this situation with his questionable health, how you feeling right now? These are the kind of things you got to think about. Not a good day for the Cleveland Cavaliers, not by any stretch of the imagination.
The Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.
Unbelievable the attention that this World Baseball Classic was able to create.
The World Baseball Classic, March 20th through March 22nd on ESPN Radio.
You do know us that well. It's the Morning Roast on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Tweet us on the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed, at Mina Kimes, at Clinton Yates, at Foxworth24. He ain't got no rhymes.
What?
Reminder, you can catch us tomorrow hosting Russillo and Cannell from 1 to 4 Eastern. And tune in tonight for the 66th annual. I've been struggling with that all day. 66th annual NBA All-Star Game live from New Orleans. Coverage begins at 7:30. Coverage begins at 7:30 on ESPN Radio. It is time to call your shot. That is brought to you by Metro PCS. Right now at Metro PCS, everyone gets a free smartphone. Yes, and when we say everyone, we really mean everyone. New customers and existing Metro PCS customers. Yes, everyone who comes to Metro PCS gets a brand new phone. Apparently 2 phones is an issue, depending on your marital status.
Bob
Mina
has a Metro PCS probably.
Exactly. Mina, what's going on? What do you think Westbrook is going to do tonight?
All right, I think this is going to be different from you guys predict. So I think this whole thing to me has been, I watch a lot of romantic comedies.
Okay, rom-coms.
Rom-coms, for sure. So this, to me, is going to play out like the end of a rom-com. They're not going to look at each other. It's going to be really awkward, maybe a little bitter. And then something's going to happen on the court, maybe like an assist, a really nice pass, basket. They're going to inadvertently, not even like on purpose, get excited, high five or something, and the second their hands make contact, there's going to be a montage of all of their greatest memories together, and they're going to remember why they loved each other in the first place.
Why are we not producing this television? Perfect. Mina, that was brilliant. I have totally changed my view on this. Dominique, what do you think is going down?
I'm sorry, Mina. If we're doing movie themes, I'm thinking Fight Club style.
Okay.
I think that he's going to shut him out altogether. I predict that Russell will not pass the ball to KD one time, despite the fact that they will play together for many minutes on the game tonight. So that's my prediction. No passes from Russ to Durant. I'm also hoping that Russ allows a Durant pass to go just out of bounds.
Right.
Like he didn't even see it coming.
The avoided move. Personally, call my shot. I think he's going to be MVP of this game. That would not necessarily be new, but I think if he is going to say something foul about KD or the Thunder, it's going to come in that sprinkle you with it, and that's when you're going to see it. He's going to blow up in the game, probably get a triple-double, get the trophy, and then decide he's going to say something. That's what's going to happen.
Who do you think this is more awkward for? I was actually, Clinton, you said earlier you keep in touch with your exes.
Yes.
Right? So
I have. Not all of them.
Who do you think this is more awkward for?
Clinton is who it's awkward for.
It should be. It should be Russell, because Kevin's showing up with his 3 new girlfriends. You know what I mean? Like he's squatted up. Russell's going out there by himself, basically. But for some reason, I think it's going to be more awkward for Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, if you even if you don't know Russell, you can watch Russell enough to know that he doesn't feel awkward.
Ever.
Like that man.
I don't
He's
know
never
about
felt
that.
awkward.
No,
I
he's
don't know
never
about
felt
that.
awkward.
You,
That man
I
is
don't know why you're
comfortable.
always carping for Russell, but I don't think he shows it. But it's also that I got dumped. New me.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yes.
New year, new me.
You're going to see me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'll be the worst thing you ever got rid of. You know what I mean? It's going to be one of those type of, that's how his whole demeanor is.
Like
the best thing you
posting
never had
pictures of
type
him on
situation.
Facebook looking
Yes.
cute at the beach.
Yes.
You're very right.
We all
And
been
that
there.
Durant seems very secure and comfortable with his decision, and
Right.
he's patient and quiet and cool. Like, yeah, this is what it is. I mean, sorry for what happened, but this, I'm happy. And Westbrook's on Instagram with his stomach out,
Exactly.
taking the best angle ever, and just hoping that he can see that Durant sees the pictures.
Which is understandable. It should be more awkward for Russell.
This is like a
It
perfect
won't
summary
be.
of Russell's entire season. Averaging a triple-double, people are like, oh, yeah, wow. It's like really, no, it's not about basketball.
Yeah.
This is about showing Kevin what he's missing.
There's also very large question as to what he's going to wear to the arena tonight.
Huge question.
What do you think, Don? I'm guessing shoes with wings, maybe, and not wingtips.
I do think that his idea or his attempt, it's funny that he's attempting to kind of show Durant what he's missing out on by doing all the things that Durant did. Like,
Yes,
it's like you
that's a
broke
good
up. It's
point.
like if you broke up with a party girl and she's like, "Oh, I'm so drunk, having a great time at the party." Like, girl, like that's why I left, because I grew up. And Durant's watching all these games. Like, you see that time when you didn't pass, and that time when you was out of control, shooting 20% from three. Yeah, that's why I'm gone, girl. Stop drinking so much.
And he's with Steph, who's the opposite of him in every
Oh,
way.
yeah. They going to church on Sunday.
Them and Rachel and Nick on The Bachelor. I hope he'd wear some kind of fashion that also has a subtweet like embedded in the outfit, as he has done several times this season. Something
I'm so
that we can
looking
all
forward to
break
this
down and diagnose for hours.
Like, I don't know that I've looked forward to an NBA All-Star game as much as I have this one in a long time.
Who is the like one man army like superhero or action movie character? Because if he like dressed up in a Rambo costume or something like that, that would be a great like.
Maybe
I'm out here alone.
Clubber Lang from Rocky, Mr. T's character.
Yeah,
that might be bad. That might not be bad. But then he'd have to go mohawk. That'd be a weird hair point.
And he got beat down.
Yeah, this is true too.
You got to go with somebody who's a winner.
This is very true. Iron Man. Good.
Yeah,
good call. Iron Man is not a bad idea. A CeeLo Green situation.
If he showed up in Iron Man, and but Iron Man is a part of the Avengers, so you gotta paint Golden State as the Avengers, and he is like the John Wick.
Oh, not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
Mina Khan does not like us disparaging the good name of her Keanu. You know Keanu Reeves is like 50?
Yeah.
He looks
That's
great.
amazing.
Why is that amazing?
Because
if he was grown when I was young, he's old.
No,
now.
it's amazing
That's
that
how
he-
that works.
Looks
that you can-
fantastic.
Yeah, I don't think that it's amazing that he's 50. I think it's amazing that he's still playing action characters and he doesn't look 50. You think he looks 50?
It's those Asian genes.
Yes, I do. And the new bit is all white guys playing action characters anyway. That's why Taken and all that is like a thing.
He's Asian. Didn't you hear Mina?
Yeah.
Just reminding everyone.
So, for everybody who's listening right now, it's the Morning Roast on ESPN Radio. But tomorrow, let's talk about tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow, we're filling in for Russillo and Cannell. So if you're listening now, Roasters,
Yes.
please tune in tomorrow.
We need you.
We need you. We need these people to understand what we're trying to do here in these streets, which is take over.
I don't think that Russillo and Cannell audience is
You-
the same as
You
our
keep
roast
saying
audience.
that. And
I mean, because I think that Russillo and Cannell is like a traditional sports radio show, and I don't think that our show. Have you listened to the show
we
today?
quad
Mina?
box with the best of them.
Oh, we can
That's true.
quad box with the best of them, but that's normally fewer of the segments than our wild conspiracy talk. Like, have you listened to I'm going to send you the podcast of today's show.
In case you missed it.
In case you missed it,
I have to
Mina.
inform the world that Stevie Wonder ain't blind. There was
wasn't
that.
here.
Maybe I'm underestimating or overestimating. I don't know. I'm misestimating the audience, but I feel like they're like a hardcore sports talk audience, and we aren't a hardcore
Says the
sports talk
former
show.
football player wearing an NFL shirt today.
Good point. Good point. Please don't wear that tomorrow.
Oh, now it's got to be worn. I'm gonna wear it with nipple holes cut out just to make you uncomfortable.
And those ripped jeans we've been talking about.
Oh yeah, ripped jeans.
So we're
you can
filling
see
in
my knee scars.
We're filling in tomorrow from 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern. Is it on you or news?
I think it's on news.
It's on
I think
news.
it's on ESPN
Oh, they not gonna
News.
bump us to ESPN? One? They need to bump your boy
3
to-
hours of us on radio on ESPN in the middle of the day. That'll go over really well.
Oh, so well.
I'm planting seeds here. Just ideas for people to think about. That's something they want to do. You're so handsome, apparently, Dominic, that maybe the people need it.
Facts are facts.
Hey.
Wink, play that star sound so they go my wink.
Wink.
There it is.
That's good. That was very good. I don't know what I'm going to wear yet. That was a big part of my decision for highly questionable because people tend to question what I have on all the time.
Do they?
I
think it was just like one dude on Twitter one time.
No. I mean, like,
in general, yeah.
Every time I'm on a television screen, some joker on Twitter comes up, what's that? Why are you wearing that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Bama's always got something to say.
Clinton refuses to
wear suits?
No,
that's where the no suit thing came from.
Yeah. Clinton refuses to just follow the crowd, which I respect, which is why I've determined that he is Raphael if we were the Ninja Turtles.
This is true.
I guess Mike would be our next turtle. He would be Raphael because he's kind of rebellious in that way. And I when we did HQ together, I wore a suit, and you made fun of me.
Like
why do you always wear
stiff.
suits if you're so?
Because he's a corporate stiff. That's why.
I never said I was against the grain.
Working for the man.
I wear suits because I look good in suits, and also if the police show up, somebody's got to talk to them.
That's a
and
good point.
it ain't gonna be Clinton dressed up
it
like
ain't gonna be me.
dressed up like an X game, like an X Games bronze medalist. He stepped all
There
on
it
my
is.
joke because he knew it was
get it
coming.
up, get it
he
up.
knew it was coming.
Get it up.
Clinton always. I'll do it again. Shh, be quiet. Clinton always dressed up like he won a bronze medal in the X Games from '98.
Bronze medal is what really makes sense.
That's so unfair, man.
Nah, Clinton.
Bronze medalist?
Nah, Clinton looks like he's.
I do look like a bronze medalist.
He looks like
I'm on the medal stand.
He looks like if he were an undercover cop going undercover as a high school student.
He looks like the wacky older brother on a Nickelodeon show.
Listen
does
to
look like
us tomorrow.
older brother on the
The
Nickelodeon
morning roast on ESPN Radio. Goodbye.
Hi, this is Maury Moreland Morrison, here to tell you Geico has more than just great savings. Much more. Yes, while Geico could help you rack up more moolah faster than you can say metamorphosis, they've also been the fastest growing auto insurer for more than 10 years. That's more like it. Furthermore, Geico has fast and friendly claim service. That might seem like an oxymoron, but it's not. All the more reason to say no other auto insurer has more than Geico. Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
It's 4th and goal. This fan's deep into a game even though he's on a bus. Looks like he's watching NFL Mobile on Verizon. He's sitting forward and now he's waking up his friend to watch. They're both watching touchdown. With Verizon, he's used no data. And I just missed my stop.
Watch live, local, and primetime games on your phone with NFL Mobile, exclusively on Verizon. All in HD without using your data. Only on America's best network.
Available to Verizon Wireless postpaid customers over LTE. Other app activities such as downloading and browsing incur data usage. Additional terms apply. See dzw.com/NFL Mobile for details.
This just in, Wendy's is adding the quarter-pound double stack as an option in the 4 for $4 for a limited time. With so much beef, that's a deal so good it should not exist. In related news, because their wings are too small for their bodies, bumblebees should not be able to fly. Here to comment, bees.
Wait, we're not supposed to fly? Kinda like how a quarter-pound of beef should not be in the 4 for $4.
Yet it is. That's over a quarter-pound of fresh beef with 4 nuggets, fries, and a Coke, all for just $4. Any other bee puns?
No, we're good, honey.
At participating Wendy's for a limited time. Meal includes 4-piece nuggets, small fries, and drink. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada. Not valid in Alaska and Hawaii.
Now that Applebee's Bourbon Street Chicken and Shrimp is only $9.99, ordering dinner just became a no-brainer. And that means you can spend more time on life's bigger questions, like which appetizer to get. Price and participation may vary. See restaurant for details.
Monday on Mike and Mike, KD and Russ, Sir Charles and King James, and somehow the biggest story from All-Star Weekend could be Kyrie Irving?
Kyrie, the earth is flat, right?
Yeah. Full reaction from NBA All-Star Weekend 2017 with Jay Williams and Peter Rosenberg. Plus, the NBA trade deadline is Thursday. Who's on the move? And looking at this year's 14 Basketball Hall of Fame nominees, the guys have all the latest Monday on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
ESPN Radio honors Black History Month. What's it like to be a black athletic director in charge of a major conference program? ESPN's TheUndefeated.com conducted a roundtable discussion with African American athletic directors at some of the most elite athletic programs in the country.
There's an extra level of scrutiny as a black man in who I hire. You want to be very confident you've collected enough evidence to support that decision, because I will be questioned.
To hear the discussion and for more on Black History Month, go to TheUndefeated.com. The Undefeated. Not conventional, never boring.
Did you miss the right time with Bomani Jones?
I can't imagine how furious the head of security had to be. Jim Dolan sent him out here on this thankless mission of kicking out local legend Charles Oakley. And what does he get for his trouble? he appears to have then gotten fired. Would you like to be the guy that had to explain to that dude that he just got fired?
The Right Time with Bomani Jones. Weekdays from 4 to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio or on the ESPN app.
Mike and Mike.
Our friend Ed Werder. They're going to release him.
Yeah.
They're not going to trade him.
Well, I said that Romo expects that the Cowboys will ultimately release, not trade him, so that he can then go solicit his own deal without some team having to compensate the Cowboys in a trade or accept his contract, which is rather enormous. And obviously, if the Cowboys want cap relief, then release is better than trading.
Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
The Stephen A. Smith Show.
Magic Johnson right here with Stephen A. What's the chances of you asking Phil Jackson to come join you in that mix so you can get him the hell out of New York? What's the chances of you doing that? Because you know I want him going. I ain't gonna lie.
Hey, I'm going to leave that up to you and all the New Yorkers on Phil. I'm going to leave that one alone.
We want to push him right to L.A. to you, Magic. I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna lie to you. We want to push him right to you.
Hey, no compensation.
The Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm John Ryder. The NBA All-Star Game is tonight in New Orleans on ESPN Radio with coverage starting at 7:30 Eastern. One of the more intriguing things to watch is how Golden State's Steve Kerr will coach the West, notably how much he plays former teammates Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook together. What does Durant think?
Well, I'm having the All-Star weekend like I always did. Get in and get out. Do everything I'm supposed to do. Play the game and have some fun, you know. I ain't come here for it to be any drama or have heart-to-heart with anybody. I'm coming here and enjoy my weekend, enjoy my couple of days I got off, and get ready for the second half of the season.
Durant, a starter for the West. He's one of 4 Golden State All-Stars. Westbrook will be coming off the bench, and the Oklahoma City point guard is also looking to win his 3rd All-Star Game MVP. If he does, he would be just the 6th player ever to do so, joining a list that includes Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, in his annual State of the League address, said that he and Players Association Executive Director Michelle Roberts agree that the league age minimum needs to be studied more. Right now, the early entry age for the NBA draft remains 19 years old, and American players must be 1 year removed from high school to be eligible for the draft. College basketball, the 3rd leading scorer in the SEC, Georgia's Yante Maten, is out indefinitely with a sprained right knee. He suffered that in yesterday's loss to Kentucky. Golf, Genesis Open at Riviera. Dustin Johnson remains the leader. He's at 12 under through 6 holes. Johnson with a 1-shot lead on Cameron Tringali and 2 in front of Pat Perez.
KD and Russ, Phil and Mello, Sir Charles and King James, and somehow the biggest story from All-Star Weekend 2017 could be Kyrie Irving? Details Monday on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Now, McNabb and Custer on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
It is McNabb and Custer here on ESPN Radio, but it's Robin Lundberg and Jason Fitz with you this morning or afternoon. And Jason, last night, NBA All-Star Saturday night, Dunker A defeated Dunker B in the slam dunk contest.
It's that simple. Dunker A, Dunker B. That's it.
That's what it feels like, right? Glenn Robinson III won the NBA dunk contest over someone called Derrick Jones Jr. And as someone who defends NBA All-Star Saturday night and the lack of maybe star power in some of these events, I can't really do it off of last night because as like an NBA avid consumer fan, when I saw the list, I was like, Glenn Robinson III, Derrick Jones Jr., who is that?
I think that's the thing that really blew my mind watching it was sort of the theme for me was lost opportunity, right? Because I was at a little party. There were people from 7 to 70 all hanging out. And I convinced everybody we should sit down and watch it, right? So we're watching it. And it didn't matter the age. It didn't matter the level of fan. Nobody seemed captivated by it. I think it was a huge lost opportunity for the NBA last night.
it was a really bad event overall. But the thing is, Jason, I have trouble because there's always this side that the stars should participate. I actually think the best dunkers should participate. And I don't think every year should be a referendum, because if we were doing this show, if we had a hot tub time machine or something, and we're doing this show last year, we'd be saying the opposite. If you watched that Levine-Gordon showdown a year ago, they were doing some of the illest things I've ever seen in my life.
That's where you're wrong. And I love you, man, but that's where you're wrong right out of the gate. Because to me, I get what you're saying. You want the best dunkers to be in there because you're an NBA fan, right? And for most of us that are NBA fans, you look at it and say, yeah, I want the best dunks. I don't care about the names. But at some point, it doesn't matter how good the dunkers are. You have to have name recognition guys that make the common fan that doesn't care about the NBA, that hasn't watched it at all, tune in. And the fact is, love it or hate it, a great dunk by a nobody will not get as much publicity as a bad dunk by a somebody.
Yeah, but then the contest is still bad. If the dunks are bad, then the contest is bad. I agree with you if it were LeBron James and Russell Westbrook and so on and so forth participating last night, there would have been more eyeballs on the game. I think everybody knows that. But I don't agree. I dismiss the notion that if we had just finished watching last year's contest, you wouldn't have been captivated. If you did the same thing you did last night that you're describing, but it was a year ago, remember when Aaron Gordon had his feet up on an ottoman in midair while jumping over a mascot?
Okay, and that's a fair point. That was an impressive, and especially in a Twitter moment where we all live now. It's easy to see these things thrown up as replay, and you're right, it's impressive. But I still think that part of the job of All-Star Weekend is really to engage people, right? And so you need to get everybody sort of bought in. Don't you think at some point, as much as that memory stands, if we see LeBron doing a dunk, that's going to be the moment people are talking about?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're looking historically, because what are the most famous dunk contests? The most famous ever is probably Michael Jordan against Dominique Wilkins. I guess my point is, though, what the guys did a year ago, and even what the guys did last night, made them look like little kids, well, the dunks they were doing. And that's part of the problem, too, is the degree of difficulty. It's gotten so absurd, the things that we're asking people to do. I mean, think about it. It's ho-hum when someone jumps over 4 people in windmill dunks.
Which is, when you say it like that, it is alarming. And I watched that and thought, man, just the athleticism that I don't have, that guy, that you see in that moment is amazing. But you referenced the old school, and to which I would say, as awesome as last night's dunks could have been or were in some moments, or last year was great, none of them created a poster that defined a generation. And that's what the old dunks did. Now, maybe that can't exist anymore. Maybe that, because we've seen so many dunks, maybe that just isn't there. But at the same time, you have to believe that eyeballs and memories are created by what the slam dunk contest used to be, and that just doesn't happen anymore.
But there's been so many great dunk contests, even in recent years. I can think of dunks that stand out to me. Dwight Howard's Superman dunk. Nate Robinson jumping over Dwight Howard. Vince Carter, that was a while ago now, but that to me is the best dunk contest performance ever. Jason Richardson had some legendary dunk contest performances. I have some Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon dunk contest dunks seared into my brain. I could make them the permanent screensavers of my mind if I wanted to, because I could just go, oh, that's pretty amazing. I just think last night is cherry picking a really poor competition that was poor for a number of reasons. It lacked the star power. It lacked the ingenuity. Like Glenn Robinson III won the dunk contest with the same dunk 3 times. He kept doing it over and over again. The one dunk that maybe would have been creative was sort of the drone thing, but Aaron Gordon was hurt and he didn't have the hops that he had a year ago. So if I was taking your side of this argument, I would have, been rubbing my fingers together anticipating this show.
Well, let me ask you this, because what you just said that's interesting to me is that if you have these moments seared into your mind, right? How many non-NBA fans have that same feel right now? Because that's the thing that the All-Star break, that's the opportunity the All-Star break gives you, is it gives you the opportunity to engage the non-standard NBA fans. So how many of them have those dunks ripped into their mind?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. And by the way, it's McNabb and Custer here on ESPN Radio. Robin Lundberg, Jason Fitz in for the guys. But what's happened is the All-Star Saturday night has been like the appetizer. They've really made the All-Star game the entree, and that's where you're going to see all those guys. By the way, tonight, it's the 66 NBA All-Star Game live from New Orleans. Coverage begins at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on most ESPN radio stations. But most people are going to agree with you, including Mark Spears from The Undefeated.
They're doing way too much. Too many props. You got spaceships coming in, mascots, gorillas, all these different things. Back in the day, see, I'm going old school again. Michael Jordan, Dominique Wilkins, Terrence Stansbury. Look, Vince Carter, they didn't use props. They just dunked. And I think the thing that was disappointing is you got so many guys. If you go look at Derrick Jones's replays and Aaron Gordon's and stuff like that, they don't have props during the games and they do amazing dunks. If they just did their dunks without having everybody come from the stands, it would have been an amazing dunk contest.
I understand what he's saying, Jason, but my problem again with it, I was at the dunk contest at the Barclays when Zach LaVine won, and everybody was like, oh my goodness, that was incredible. Last year afterwards, everybody was like, oh my goodness, that was incredible. And again, the dunks that those guys did would have embarrassed Michael Jordan. They would have embarrassed Michael Jordan and Dominique Wilkins in a dunk contest. Last night was bad. I'm not going to argue that last night wasn't bad, but last night doesn't erase those other performances. It just feels like the narrative is always the dunk contest is finished. How do we change the dunk contest? So whenever there's any evidence to support that, confirmation bias takes over.
Here's the thing I think. Okay, so I spent years touring as a musician, and when you put together festivals, you have one way you can go. You can either put together a festival with the best bands, which is what musicians want,
sure,
or you can put together a festival with the biggest names, which is what fans want. And that's sort of finding the dynamic and the balance between the two is very difficult to do. Ultimately, the All-Star Game to me is about giving the fans the opportunity to see the biggest names doing these things. Whether they're the best at what they do, it doesn't really matter. I think it's a bad look for the NBA as a whole when they're showing the broadcast, and continually what you see is Harden and Curry just sitting there in street clothes watching all of this go down. It felt to me like what I was watching was the varsity players sitting on the sideline watching the JV guys go out and do their thing. I think that's a disservice to the NBA and the opportunity, even if the dunks are better. And you're right, in recent memory, the dunks are better. They aren't long lasting for people because they aren't the huge names. And that's what people want to see.
But what if the huge name can't complete the dunk that you're talking about? Well, then you don't get it at all.
Well, ultimately, at some point, again, to go back to the musician analogy, I don't think some of the legendary rock bands put on the same show that they put on 20 years ago. But ultimately, you still want to see those guys. You still want to see the Rolling Stones, whether they're as good as they were. There's a reason that people still flock to see them, because they want to see legends do legendary things, even if it's at a lesser capacity.
They want to see just how long Keith Richards can actually tour for. Pretty
the guy's a vampire. I'm convinced he's a vampire. Everything inside him's got to be dead. He's a vampire.
It's McNabb and Custer, Robin Lundberg, Jason Fitton here on ESPN Radio, presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Shell Pensacola Performance Line. You can tweet us on the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed at ESPN Radio, at Jason Fitz, at Robin Lundberg. Coming up next, how should Steve Kerr handle the story of the All-Star Game? You know, that whole feud, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant. You might have heard of it. It's ESPN Radio.
Mavericks owner Mark Cuban's battle was more off the court in the NBA All-Star Celebrity Game on Friday. Peter Rosenberg and Jay Williams react to his trolling Monday on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. The NBA All-Star Game today.
Here's Curry behind the back, half-court heave on its way, and he hits it!
Coverage begins today at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Monday morning with Greeny and Golick. Peter Rosenberg fresh from the NBA Celebrity Game. Plus Booger McFarland and Jay Williams. It's Mike and Mike. Starting at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Most Tuesdays are just Tuesdays. Except at Buffalo Wild Wings, where Tuesdays are Wing Tuesdays. But now even Wing Tuesdays aren't just Wing Tuesdays, because Wing Tuesdays are half-price Wing Tuesdays, which means your boring Tuesday that became Wing Tuesday now costs you half as much. In case you're confused, we have half-price Wing Tuesdays. We do it for you. Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports.
Prices and participation vary. See participating locations for details. Void where prohibited.
With Love out 6 weeks, will the Cavs make a trade? Who else could be on the move? Jay Williams has the latest on Thursday's NBA trade deadline. It's Monday on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Progressive presents Mindfulness with Flow.
You are on a spiritual journey towards savings. Your mind is drifting into uncharted territory as you use the Name Your Price tool to find policy options that fit your budget. Options that fit perfectly, like football pants. or the unitard thingies wrestlers wear.
Experience inner peace with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive. Visit Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
This week in sports history, February 25th, 1999. Indiana pacer Reggie Miller becomes the first NBA player to reach 4,000 three-point field goal attempts in an 81-74 win over the Cleveland Cavaliers. NBC Sports.
Gets back and delivers another three. Reggie Miller with another dagger, darting back behind the three-point line.
Celebrating 25 years of ESPN Radio.
This is the sound of everyday engine threats like gunk, wear, and corrosion, unleashing their wrath on your engine. Now, this is the sound of Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline, providing the best total engine protection you can get. Period. Think all premium fuels are the same? Think again. Choose Shell V-Power Nitro Plus today.
Check out my latest find, a Babe Ruth autographed baseball I bought from University Archives. Okay, I'm on universityarchives.com. Abraham Lincoln, Muhammad Ali, Marilyn Monroe, Einstein, a book signed by the first 40 Super Bowl MVPs. These are unbelievable.
Own a museum-quality piece of America's history, from signed rare books and letters to other personal possessions of the most iconic figures of past and present. Go to universityarchives.com, where you can bid on truly remarkable collectibles.
ESPN Radio honors Black History Month. Go to theundefeated.com for the Undefeated 44, a collection of dreamers, geniuses, innovators, and record breakers. This is not a list of the greatest African Americans of all time. It's simply the Undefeated 44.
I still have a dream. I stand here today humbled by the task before us.
In the great tradition of African American culture.
For more stories on Black history, go to theundefeated.com. The Undefeated. Not conventional, never boring.
This one's good if it goes. Oh, goodness. Cow. Are you kidding me?
The ACC and Big 12 tournament.
Are you kidding?
Coming in March to ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
It's McNabb and Custer here on ESPN Radio, presented by Progressive Insurance. Robin Lundberg, Jason Fitz in for the guys. And what the NBA did was wrong last night, like the song says here, Jason. NBA All-Star Saturday night, a big dud. Overall, as an NBA fan, I'll say it's a big dud. I don't think it means the end of the world. We do have, maybe it means the end of the world as a round spherical object, but not the end of the world as far as the NBA.
The flat world's okay.
The flat world is safe. But actually, the flat world shouldn't be safe because theoretically then you could fall off. And what happens if a hole breaks into the flat world? Then do we all just fall into space?
Maybe the flat world's actually just kept in a gigantic trapper keeper none of us can see. So.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it's a
safe.
Big... like we're all in the Truman Show, sort of.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Well, the big show tonight in the NBA All-Star Game, whether or not the world is flat or round, is probably going to be the lineup decisions that Steve Kerr is going to make. And he's been very coy. Not really Straight Talk brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, half the cost. But nonetheless, Steve Kerr did speak.
Now that we're here, I have given it more than 1 ounce of thought. But as of last week, I hadn't thought about it. But no, I've definitely considered it. That's the only thing that you have to do as a coach in the All-Star game is to parcel out the minutes. That's it. I mean, you don't draw up any plays. At least I don't. I didn't 2 years ago. Yeah, so we got to figure out the minutes, and I have thought about it, and I'm not going to share it with you here today.
That was Steve Kerr with some Straight Talk nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable networks. That's Straight Talk Wireless. And I guess keeping us all in suspense, Jason, is what he's doing. Perhaps we will see that 4+1 lineup tonight where it's the Warriors players and Russell Westbrook.
I mean, is there some competitive advantage he's looking for here? I don't understand why this is so Belichickian at this point. Like, I mean, he could just answer the question, tell us how he's going to work it, But I think everybody wants the suspense, right? And to me, you just play him. Just get it over with right out of the gate. Just get the whole thing over with. Let's have the awkward moment. I suggest a long hug because I'm a fan of that. I suggest a long hug. They hug it out, and then they go about their business.
It's McNabb and Custer here on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Robin Lundberg, Jason Fitz in for the guys today. Now, the whole Westbrook-Durant dynamic, some might feel it's overplayed, but there's something there. Those guys do have sort of this cold war going on between the two of them where they're not going to come out and blast each other publicly. But I saw it yesterday. Westbrook was in a scrum, and Durant was headed for the locker room, and his path was right towards Westbrook. And he decided to take a little bit of a turn and just walked past him in the locker room. No acknowledgement between those two. Now, when you're on the court, it's a different dynamic because you're out there playing a team game. I don't think you're going to see one or the other freeze the other guy out, other than, Westbrook likes to take a lot of shots and dominate the ball anyway. But there is that bubbling animosity. So I think when people accuse us, I guess, of making a big deal out of this, there's something actually there.
I'm actually with you on this all the way, because I saw that same video where, they're essentially backstage. Nobody could see it. There's an opportunity there where they could have just a nod, just like the bro, uptake. Yeah. That's all they do that. This whole thing's diffused. And it was quite the opposite. And that's when you do look at it and say, okay, this is a legit thing that is not going away, and it's obviously awkward. It's going to be. That's why I think you really have to start the game and just bring them together. Just do it right there. Get it over with, because otherwise it sort of grows. It feels like it festers into what's going to happen.
It's good for the NBA tonight, though, because, just the All-Star game in itself is usually allure because all these guys, it's the league that relies on star power the most, while you're making the argument that the stars should participate in NBA All-Star Saturday night. But just seeing all these guys on the floor at the same time, all those Warriors guys and Westbrook and Harden on the West, and, of course, LeBron repping the East, that's usually enough to bring people in. But there's that extra dynamic, because for me, the All-Star game, basically it's this. There's two scales to grade it on. How many cool things do you see where just a star player makes a cool play, throwing it off the backboard to a teammate or whatnot? And is it going to be close? Because the second part is the biggest thing. You don't want one side running away too early, because then it takes away the one chance that you get for it to actually be competitive, which is about the last 4 minutes of a fairly tight game.
I think this is where the NBA actually can win the most. In the same reasons that I didn't like last night are why I love tonight. With a league that's built on stars and star power, the NBA All-Star Game, I think more than any other, is allowed because of the limited roster, because it's a smaller group of guys, because you're not trying to identify some defensive tackle from a team you don't know like you are in the Pro Bowl. You're actually seeing the names that you're sort of inundated with all the time playing together. This is where the NBA wins. I think that's part of why, like we were talking earlier, I was so frustrated with last night, because tonight is a huge win. That's also why I think you handle this Durant Westbrook thing right out of the gate, because you're going to win no matter what through the process. The process of seeing these guys together will be interesting enough for that 10-year-old kid that maybe not a huge NBA fan. They're going to stay engaged just because this is sort of the video game version of the NBA.
And there's so many stars in the NBA with the limited roster, as you mentioned, that almost every guy in this game is a fairly significant name. Paul Millsap, probably the only one who isn't. Even the alternate, right? The Melo for Love trade. The alternate is Carmelo Anthony. When you're talking about the Pro Bowl, there's so many darn alternates that Kirk Cousins is playing in the Pro Bowl.
And that's the maddening thing as a football junkie, as an NFL junkie. For me, the maddening thing is you get closer to the Pro Bowl and you're saying, really, that guy's in the Pro Bowl? That doesn't happen here to the same degree. And you're right, it's the limited rosters, but the massive star power. That's the biggest win that comes out of it. It's like that perfect balance, yin and yang for them, by having the perfect balance of star power with the small rosters and household names. That's what makes this night, I think, special for the NBA.
And, it matters in a certain sense, because for somebody like Carmelo, not making the All-Star team this year wouldn't have been that big a deal in the grand scheme of things. But for someone like him, you do look at his Hall of Fame case, and he's going to wind up being in the Hall of Fame. But one of the things, as an NBA fan, you do look at, and you do a quick cursory search of, if you go to Basketball Reference or whatever, and you say, all right, this guy's an 11-time All-Star. Well, I'm not going to keep an 11-time All-Star out of the Hall of Fame, right? The All-Star game means something as far as an accomplishment probably more in the NBA as a feather in your cap than in any other sport.
Which is part of why I was so frustrated with the process and the players and their own engagement in the voting process for the All-Star game, because this is something we right now will have the discussion, is this guy an All-Star, is this guy an All-Star? That's natural for every sport on their All-Star, respective All-Star games. But what happens, you're right, is 5-10 years down the road, whether it's the Pro Bowl or whether it's the NBA All-Star game, we're talking about that as we talk about Hall of Fame status. That's why it's actually more important that these guys take their voting responsibility somewhat seriously in this process.
LeBron had a pretty good one-liner about that, but I mean, it is something that you see. As far as the Pro Bowl, do you do the same thing with the Pro Bowl? Because I don't know if I do. Maybe it would, if it's somebody's been in the Pro Bowl a million times, it would stand out, but I don't know if it works the same way as the NBA All-Star game.
I think it does. I think that there's a conversation about the Pro Bowl for Hall of Famers. Also, there's a big monetary gain for the Pro Bowl. Most of these guys in the NFL have it written into their contract. So it seemed like the Raiders that had several Pro Bowlers had to spend, I think, over $1 million in bonuses to players just based on Pro Bowl appearances. So it's still something that they actually they put some relevance to, because anytime there's money attached, it's relevant.
Is the NBA All-Star Game all right, or does it need to be fixed? You can call us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, 888-729-3776. Robin Lundberg, Jason Fitz in for McNabb and Custer here on ESPN Radio, presented by Progressive Insurance. Now, Jason, we've talked about Carmelo Anthony as an example here. We'll talk about him a little bit more coming up in a second, because he was all set for a vacation here.
That's tough when you were set to take a vacation, you were going to get some downtime, then you got to go to the All-Star game, right?
Yeah, but the funny thing is, the All-Star game is important to Carmelo. Maybe too important at times. He famously put off knee surgery so that he could play in the All-Star game. He campaigns for himself on Twitter, on the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed, more than anybody else when coming up for the All-Star game. He does that. His patches, if you watch these guys with their warm-ups on, they all have the patches. Carmelo's are all All-Star patches because he doesn't have any team accomplishment patches. So for him to have wanted a vacation more than the All-Star game, to me that says a lot about the current state of the Knicks.
Absolutely it does, but it also says a lot about what can be great about All-Star Weekend. These guys are getting to play together with their friends. That's part of the magic.
We'll hear what Carmelo Anthony did have to say coming up next. Robin Lundberg, Jason Fitz on McNabb and Custer here on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
The 2017 NBA All-Star Game. DeRozan, Kyrie, and LeBron lead the Eastern Stars into New Orleans.
Butler throws it down with two hands. Wow. Kyrie Irving. James splits a double, drives and throws it home.
To face the West, led by Kawhi, Durant, and Curry.
James Harden stirring it up. Durant throws it down. Nothing but net. Steph Curry.
Coverage begins today at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Monday on Mike and Mike, KD and Russ, Sir Charles and King James, and somehow the biggest story from All-Star Weekend could be Kyrie Irving?
Kyrie, the earth is flat, right?
Yeah. Full reaction from NBA All-Star Weekend 2017 with Jay Williams and Peter Rosenberg. Plus, the NBA trade deadline is Thursday. Who's on the move? And looking at this year's 14 Basketball Hall of Fame nominees, the guys have all the latest Monday on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
There is more to me, Queen Eliara of Elfgard, than my elven magic. Just as there's more to Geico than saving you money, Geico also gives you 24/7 access to licensed agents online, on the phone, or on the Geico app. And while I am a mighty elf queen, I am also a mighty big fan of barbecue potato chips. Minions! More smoky mesquite.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
This just in, Wendy's is adding the quarter-pound double stack as an option in the 4 for $4 for a limited time. With so much beef, that's a deal so good it should not exist. In related news, howler monkeys should not be able to be heard from 3 miles away. Here to comment, a howler monkey.
Wow! That sounds like a really good deal!
Indeed. That's over a quarter-pound of fresh beef with 4 nuggets, fries, and a Coke, all for just $4. Anything else, howler monkey?
I'm not allowed in libraries!
At participating Wendy's for a limited time. Meal includes 4-piece nuggets, small fries, and drink. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada. Not valid in Alaska and Hawaii.
When you come to Applebee's for an all-in burger with fries and a bottomless Pepsi for just $9.99, you also get a shot at great instant win prizes. Sink your teeth into that. No purchase necessary. Open to legal 50 U.S. 18+. See rules at allintowinsweeps.com.
When you drive your vehicle for the first time, you want to make sure it stays as good as new for as long as possible. That's why you should make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics with Pure Plus technology. A modern motor oil made from natural gas and designed to protect your engine against wear. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today and let the performance speak for itself. Save $2 per quart on any qualifying Pennzoil purchase. See pennzoil.com/rebate for more information.
ESPN Radio honors Black History Month. How did the world-famous Harlem Globetrotters, known for their fun-loving and entertaining style of basketball showmanship, deal with racism off the court from their inception in 1927 through the civil rights era of the 60s?
In our 90 years, we have played on 6 continents, 122 countries and territories. We've been all over the world, putting smiles on kids' faces.
Their story on ESPN's TheUndefeated.com. The Undefeated. Not conventional, never boring.
The NBA on ESPN Radio.
James drive, puts it up with an emphatic right hand. Out to Curry, and another three's up and in.
Now available on the ESPN app.
NFL fans, Operations.NFL.com gives you an exclusive behind-the-scenes look inside NFL Game Day. We cover the players, the officials, and all of the details that go into bringing you America's favorite sport. Not just on game day, but every day. With features like a searchable NFL rulebook, Stats Central, the You Make the Call Interactive, and the Video Rulebook. Operations.NFL.com brings the NFL to life. Go to Operations.NFL.com today.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm John Ryder. It's NBA All-Star Weekend, and the 66th annual NBA All-Star Game is tonight in New Orleans, right here on ESPN Radio, with coverage starting at 7:30 Eastern. Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook once again teammates for the first time since Durant's departure to Golden State. Westbrook a reserve and Durant a starter for the West. ESPN's Amin Al-Hassan.
It's not going to go away. Every time they play, we're going to ask the same questions. And by the way, there's nothing in Russell Westbrook's behavior or mannerisms to show that, you know what, you're right. We've kind of been silly. We've taken this too far. KD, I'm sorry for the way I acted. I was hurt because you left and you took my only chance at the championship away. But that's not going to happen. There's nothing about him that's conciliatory. So why does anyone believe that some kumbaya moment would happen on court?
Golden State with 4 All-Stars. It's the first time since the 2014-15 Hawks that a team has had as many as 4 All-Stars. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver says that he and Players Association Executive Director Michelle Roberts agree that the NBA age minimum needs to be studied more. Silver noted that it requires to take a new look and a new approach to the issue. Currently, the early entry age for the NBA draft is 19 years old. Former NBA first-round pick Jimmer Fredette scored 73 points for Shanghai in a double overtime loss in the Chinese Basketball Association today. Fredette's 73 points are the 4th most ever at a Chinese Pro League game. To golf, rain has played havoc this weekend at the Genesis Open in Southern California, but solid conditions today. And in the 3rd round, Dustin Johnson has the lead at 13 under through 8 holes. It's a 3-shot lead on Cameron Tringali. Johnson will be number 1 in the golf rankings if he comes on top with a win.
Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Steph Curry, and the Western Conference All-Stars take the court against LeBron James, Isaiah Thomas, Jimmy Butler, and the Eastern Conference All-Stars. The NBA All-Star Game, tonight at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
It's McNabb and Custer here on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Robin Lundberg, Jason Fitz in today. ESPN Radio presented by Progressive Insurance, creators of the Name Your Price tool. Choose from a range of coverage options and pick the price that works for you. Jason, is this show like therapy for you?
Well, so far it feels good. I mean, does that make you my therapist, though?
I guess, is it like joint therapy? Maybe we're in couples therapy.
Right. Oh, that's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. Which one of us is the non-communicative one, though? We both talk for a living.
Yeah, it wouldn't be me. I would never be accused. Though I have been accused of like maybe swallowing my feelings.
Oh, okay.
And keeping them to myself and then letting them come out at a later time when it's not as productive.
Do you want to talk about it?
No, not right now. Let's talk about somebody else who is thinking a little bit about therapy, and that's Carmelo Anthony at the All-Star game.
This is definitely therapy for me. I mean, being here, and even though I gotta talk to you guys, this is a break, for me to come here and not have to deal with kind of my situation or our organization. This is definitely therapy for me to be down here.
So Carmelo expressing, without saying it explicitly, Jason, that the New York Knicks situation is a complete and total mess.
I mean, how often does somebody say, I need to go to New Orleans to get therapy and get away from everything? I mean, it's a crazy moment. Again, I think part of this is camaraderie with, I mean, there is a little bit of a moment where it's got to be some escapism from Carmelo, getting back to the guys that he knows really well, getting back amongst his friends, and probably the only people that can really understand how difficult whatever he is going through in New York actually is. It's hard to explain that to people that aren't living that situation. So it does give him the opportunity to get away, but it says something about sort of the future and what he's going back to. I can't imagine how it feels when he gets back on the flight and heads back to New York.
Yeah, we'll see how long he winds up staying there. By the way, you're listening to McNabb and Custer here on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Robin Lundberg, Jason Fitz in this afternoon. But Carmelo, I'll give him credit because he deserves his fair share of blame for the situation in New York. I mean, they haven't exactly excelled since he's been there. There's been some times where he hasn't exactly been the model teammate or player, most notably the situation with Mike D'Antoni and Jeremy Lin. But I don't think that's been the case in recent years. I think he's, for the most part, tried to do the right thing on the court. And if you look at the Knicks' tenure with Carmelo before Phil Jackson, they actually had a winning record. Since Phil Jackson took over, they've had a horrible losing record. And in the midst of all this, you're dealing with the James Dolan, Charles Oakley situation. Phil Jackson is sneak dissing you on Twitter with cryptic tweets. And Carmelo's the only guy who really has to answer for all that consistently. And to me, he has handled himself like a true pro in the midst of all that dysfunction.
How hard has it got to be, to just clear your mind through all of it? Because you're right, he's the one that does the majority of the answering for it. And what's really staggering to me is that no matter what job you have, I realize it's hard for a lot of people. You sit there and you think, well, he's an NBA star, I'm not going to feel bad for him. No matter what job you have, there's a moment where you can feel the drama, you can feel things sort of going south. When you start to hate where you work, when you start to really dislike the people you work around, or you feel like the company's going downhill, or you feel like you're not getting respect, or you feel like you're not moving forward, and you feel like you're not being put in a situation to be successful, it makes it hard to go to work. And then you pile onto that the fact that he has to go to work in a profession that requires so much concentration and the ability to sort of compartmentalize, speaking of therapy, and just sort of move forward. For that reason alone, it makes what he is doing this year, I think, actually pretty admirable.
Yeah, but part of the problem is it's kind of what he signed up for. I mean, when he forced that trade, one thing he could have waited for free agency, but to his defense, there was the uncertainty about the CBA that summer. But he wanted to go to New York to be the dude, to be the guy on that team in that market. And there's a lot that comes with that. You know, your star power goes up, your ability to leverage your brand, I'm sure, into money-making opportunities all goes up. But when you're Carmelo Anthony, first of all, I don't think he can be the best player on a truly contending championship team. But then you get stuck with the after effects of all that when you do realize, oh, okay, I wanted to be the guy in New York, but maybe I underestimated just how bad this organization is run. Because if you look at the fallout from the Oakley situation, all of Melo's buddies have been speaking out. The entire Banana Boat crew, Wade, LeBron, Chris Paul, who, by the way, is the president of the Players Association. And without saying it, they've all basically said the Knicks stink.
Part of this, to your discussion of how much of this did he this is the bet he made, I get that argument, but here's the thing. When you're a kid, and at some point I realize they're all grown men, but when you're a kid and you're making these decisions about where you want to play and how you want to play, Of course you want to be for many personalities, you want to be the biggest guy on a big team in a great market in a city that you love, and you want to be the guy that drives somebody to championships. I mean, obviously athletes get to where they are because they have a certain self-confidence, right? So I can't fault a guy in his late 20s saying, you know what I want? I want to be the main guy. I want to be the big fish in the biggest pond, make a ton of money, and be the guy in the NBA. I have no problem with that. Unfortunately, at some point, that's just that's what you think you want, and there's nothing wrong with getting into those waters at some point and saying, man, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And that's sort of the human side of it. I think that's where he is right now. I think that's what he's feeling. He's looking around saying, guys, I know what I signed up for, and I didn't think it would be this.
And really, he has the power in the situation. He may be in a tough situation, but he has the power because they foolishly gave him a no-trade clause, which allows him to cherry-pick the teams he's going to go to. You know, I have a bit on this where people are always saying, you know, why can't Carmelo be traded or why can't they get something back in return? I mean, it says no trade right in the title. It's like when people are surprised when a killer whale gets somebody at SeaWorld. You know, killer is right in the title. So, of course, it's going to make it harder to trade him.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's got to be the only Carmelo killer whale analogy I've ever heard. But part of it, I don't fault him also. Think about this. You're in a bad situation. You don't love where you work. All of a sudden, you realize you control your own destiny. I don't have a problem then saying, you know what? First and foremost, I'm not going to jump into another bad relationship. I'm going to find the right relationship to go to, because no matter how miserable he may be, he doesn't want to repeat history, right? He doesn't want to just go to any team where it could be the same exact scenario. He wants to cherry pick a situation where he understands why it will be better. I mean, that's part of the evolution of growing up. You don't want to make the same mistake twice. I don't fault him for that.
And then there's the ego battle because, you know, you're not going to let them force you out, make them have you hit the panic button so that you accept a situation that you don't really want to go to. Because right now, Carmelo is in a spot where he is the best player on a bad team. He is the star, or at least, you know, next to Porzingis, who's emerging as a star, the guy in New York. And the other situation he's looking for is being a complementary player, a super complimentary player, but a complementary player on a team that's closer to contending.
So the question becomes what drives you, right? Because part of what you just alluded to, he may or may not be the best player, but he's certainly the biggest star in New York. Right? So the ego part of that is, if he's the biggest star on the team, is he comfortable going somewhere above and beyond play? You know, just the actual swallowing of your ego and saying, hey, I'm going to go somewhere where I am not the star. When I walk in, all the media is not going to converge on me. You know, it's sort of one of those LA moments. If you ever fly into LAX, when you land, you can find out the star power of the people you're with by the way the paparazzi goes, right? So he goes from being the guy that lands in LA and everybody flocks to him to being the guy that lands in LA and he walks through the airport and, you know, they may or may not take a picture. Like that's a big ego blow for him.
You brought up the age, though. I think that plays in a lot, right? It's different when you're 28 and you want to be the guy and prove to yourself that you can do it versus when you're the age he's at now, because all of a sudden you hear that tick, 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 that career mortality start to tick away. And he knows he doesn't have any championships. I mean, he barely has any playoff round wins. He had that one year with Denver where they went to the Western Conference Finals and the one year with New York where they beat the Celtics in the first round. So I would imagine, if I were in his shoes, and I'm not, of course, but I would be looking for that spot to have at least that, you know, you can't guarantee a championship. If he goes to the Clippers, they're probably not going to win the championship, right? But you know you're going to be in the playoffs. You know you're going to be in highly competitive situations. You know you're going to play with one of your buddies in Chris Paul, one of the greatest point guards of all time. I have to think that is more appealing than being asked about James Dolan, Charles Oakley, and Phil Jackson every night.
I mean, you said it, playing with friends. I think the thing is, you know what you can control in the NBA, and what you can control, if you're Melo at this point, you can control the environment you get to go to and the guys you get to play with. You can't control whether or not that's going to give you a title. But if he cares about, you know, just going to work and having fun, and what he's saying essentially is, I'm not having fun in New York. I need a break from this, right? So his next step to me is it's not about a championship. It's all about the things he knows he can control, which is going to a place where he can play with guys that he loves to play with and he can have a good time.
One thing you can't control is the power of Alabama. We'll explain that coming up next. It's McNabb and Custer, Robin Lundberg, and Jason Fitzen on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
With all the drama surrounding All-Star Weekend 2017, somehow Kyrie Irving may be the biggest story of it all.
Kyrie, the earth is flat, right?
Yeah. Reaction to his claims Monday on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Progressive presents Mindfulness with Flow.
Your mind is a blank slate as you enter total relaxation. Safe driver, paperless, multi-car. They are wrapping their savings around you. Like the tinfoil that wraps around your hot dog at a ball game, which for some reason costs $12.50.
Switch to Progressive and surround yourself with savings. Visit Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
ESPN. Supported by Blue Apron. Blue Apron partners with sustainable farms, fisheries, and ranchers to bring you all the ingredients you need to create incredible home-cooked meals. Ingredients come paired with an easy-to-follow recipe card delivered to your door weekly in a refrigerated box. Rediscover how fun cooking can be while enjoying specialty ingredients and exploring new flavors and cuisines. Get your first 3 Blue Apron meals free, plus free shipping by visiting blueapron.com/ESPN.
Monday on Mike and Mike, KD and Russ, Sir Charles and King James, and somehow the biggest story from All-Star Weekend could be Kyrie Irving?
Kyrie, the earth is flat, right?
Yeah. Full reaction from NBA All-Star Weekend 2017 with Jay Williams and Peter Rosenberg. Plus, the NBA trade deadline is Thursday. Who's on the move? And looking at this year's 14 Basketball Hall of Fame nominees, the guys have all the latest Monday on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
This one's good if it goes. Oh, dude! Oh, goodness! Cow! Are you kidding me?
The ACC and Big 12 tournament.
Are you kidding?
Coming in March to ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
ESPN Radio honors Black History Month. Willie O'Ree is often called the Jackie Robinson of hockey. Learn how O'Ree, who made his NHL debut on January 18, 1958, with the Boston Bruins, was able to play despite being legally blind in his right eye.
I didn't realize at the time that I had broken barriers and opened doors. It wasn't until I read it in the paper.
His story and more on ESPN's TheUndefeated.com. The Undefeated. Not conventional, never boring.
It's always time for the right time.
The Warriors are just way better than the Thunder. That's why Kevin Durant plays for them now. Every time Durant plays against them, he just has to look at himself and be like, man, I made the right decision. Like, at no point at all should Kevin Durant, go back there and be like, man, I probably should have stayed. Nah, bro, you made the right decision.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones. Weekdays from 4 to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio or on the ESPN app. Bomani.
Mike and Mike.
If Johnny Manziel genuinely wants to be an NFL quarterback again, you don't just want to be a celebrity, that you don't just want to be a star. The New Orleans Saints, I'm just making up a team here, are not going to call and say, you know what, let's bring him in and give him a shot at this thing. But if he goes to Canada, I think he has a real chance.
I don't think Johnny believes that. I think he believes if he shows he is now flying right, someone will take the chance and sign him.
Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
It's McNabb and Custer, ESPN Radio, and the ESPN app. Robin Lundberg, Jason Fitz, in for the guys. Maybe they should send us some flowers, Jason, you think?
Oh, I'd love some flowers.
I mean, why not, right? They look nice. You can smell them. They're always in season. Surprising your friend or loved one with a bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. 1-800-Flowers has amazing offers on bouquets starting at just $29.99. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Perhaps we should send some flowers to a high school coach because he just lost his job. And this person is David Feaster, who has been one of the most successful coaches in Louisiana high school football in recent years. And the reason, Jason Fitz, that he was fired is that he crossed one of the biggest names in college, period, by apparently banning Nick Saban from recruiting at his school.
Look, we shouldn't be surprised by this. I mean, the fact is, you ban Nick Saban from your school down in the South, and you are playing with fire. As I've always said, Nick Saban's been getting SEC coaches fired for years. So who should it shock that he gets a high school coach fired? I mean, the fact is, Nick Saban rules the South, and he gets to do what he wants, where he wants, how he wants it. And if this high school coach doesn't want to allow him on campus, you're never going to win that battle. Don't you at some point have to pull back and be like, hey, let me think about how this plays forward? Nope, not going to win it.
You know, I'm sitting here in New York. You obviously very familiar with Nashville. We're just talking about that area of the country during the break. Obviously now Alabama and Nashville are not the same places, but in the middle of the country, college football is so big, you know, in a lot of those places because it is the marquee attraction. Obviously, in Alabama, that would be the case. And I think sometimes somebody like me could lose sight of just how powerful those college coaches are. And Nick Saban, I mean, if you're like power ranking the most powerful people from a certain state radius in the middle of the country, he's got to be up there, no?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're putting power of a brand to the South, and I live in Nashville, so obviously I'm familiar with that part of the country, and it's amazing because it's generational. And this is what a lot of people don't realize is that fathers and grandfathers all grew up without NFL teams in many of those areas, so they really grew up with a passion and pride for regional success that comes with college football. That's why the SEC fans are sort of the way they are. It's very personal, and it's it's your dad and your grandfather and your great grandfather are all fans of. So when you live in SEC country, you understand the power structure. This coach knew this isn't a coach in Montana saying, I'm not going to let Nick Saban on my campus. This is a high school coach in Louisiana that knows where he is in the power structure, completely losing his mind.
Well, is he trying to take a stand? I mean, what is the incentive for doing it? Because you have to think you're going to ruffle some feathers. I mean, even your own students. It's not as if, you know, the kids are thinking about this in the big picture the way he thinks he's thinking about it, because obviously they're going to want to be recruited by Alabama.
Right, and that's what I can't really figure out either is how does this benefit the kids? I mean, his job, first and foremost, is to mold young men through football, right? So part of what he's got to have a mindset on is how do I help these guys get to their next goal, whatever that goal may be. Not allowing the most powerful coach in college football and the most successful coach in college football to step on your campus, I don't understand how that benefits anybody. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, I don't have a problem with the firing for that because it's so short-sighted.
Well, he's saying that Saban is not ethical in the way he recruits. So it is him saying he's taking a stand. The problem is it's a stand that no one's hearing, right? Generally, if you're taking a stand, you need to grab the attention of people. Say what you want about Colin Kaepernick, who didn't stand up, kneel down, obviously, but it got people to notice. It got people to react. It got people to talk about it. There must have been a more effective way to make this point about Nick Saban. Do you think he would have been fired, for instance, if he spoke out? If he, went on a radio show or what have you and said these things and made these public comments? Or do you think he would have had the same fate as he did by the inaction, I suppose, of not letting Saban around the team?
I think ultimately if he just speaks out, then it's sort of noted. It's like standing up and saying, I want my objection noted. It's like it's in writing, then everybody can feel good about it. I think that the problem is when you say he's banned, it sends such a message. And maybe that's what he's trying to do. But ultimately, is that a message? Is that a fight you're going to win? No. So he's got to be smart enough to handle this in a way where he can make his statement. But what good does it do you to make a statement if all it does is get you fired and then you can't continue to try and help in the process? I mean, he's sort of cut his nose off to spite his face.
What are the rules in recruiting anyway? It's very tough for me to determine what's cool and what's not cool, what's cheating and what's not cheating, what's ethical and what's not ethical, because it doesn't seem like there's we need like a playbook or a guideline.
No, I got this one. Okay. It's simple. If your team does it, totally cool. If your rival does it, totally unethical. It's that simple.
It's very partisan when it comes to college recruiting. Roll Tide, though, they can probably get away with whatever they want at this point. I mean, and it is, there is a huge double standard with certain coaches. They've earned it to an extent. And Saban would fall into this category. Belichick obviously falls into this category in the pros where people just gloss over, any of the accusations against him in the past, or, when they take on a troubled player, it's always, well, that guy's going to find his way with the Patriots, rather than, why are the Patriots taking on this troubled guy that some other teams would get? One of my favorite examples is Coach K, where Team USA, we've talked a lot about NBA All-Stars today. Team USA, they never get any credit for anything. If they beat a team by 10, it's why didn't they beat them by 25? But Coach K his record at Team USA is always celebrated. People are like, oh, look what he's done with Team USA. So I don't understand how those two thoughts can exist at the same time.
And to that extent, that's part of, the argument that we've been talking about All-Star Weekend. And part of the argument I've seen so many people say about these athletes not participating is that what good does it do Steph Curry as a brand if he comes out and doesn't win? It's still, ultimately, it's interesting. There are certain guys that are just bigger than all of it. Saban's bigger than all of it in college football. And there's a point, especially in the South, he's got to, a high school coach in Louisiana. And again, let's take the conspiracy theory forward. LSU obviously is never going to have love lost for Alabama. It feels like all of this plays into a way. And ultimately what the coach is doing, even in taking a stand, is he's hurting the kids that play for him because he's limiting their opportunity. You cannot do that if you're a coach.
Well, you talk about what it does to your brand. I mean, poor Steph Curry. As we're talking, I saw Mina Kimes on SportsCenter, and they're doing a segment about how DJ Khaled had a better night than Steph Curry last night because Steph Curry came out to try and make some half-court shots in a hoodie and couldn't make on 8 attempts.
I mean, come on, jumping over DJ Khaled though, I'm not that impressed. He's wider than he is tall. I want somebody there that's jump over to Kembe Mutombo, then I'm impressed. Jump over DJ Khaled.
DJ Khaled's an interesting character because he's like the first professional meme in history. He's so famous. Like, what exactly does he do? He talks over tracks, but people love him. I mean, his new single, he's got Beyonce and Jay-Z on his new single, so he's got to be doing something right.
Everybody loves him, but I still feel like the biggest lie in that thing was that he was sitting at a table that actually had gear. He just needs like a little jump drive. He plugs it in, and that's all. That's the extent of his DJing in my mind. So it's amazing. But you're right. The guy has cornered a market. He's become the new it guy out of nowhere. So good on him.
His Snapchat he really used to his benefit there. What else was funny? Last night they're doing the concert in New Orleans and he kept shouting Miami.
Yeah.
That's where he's from. I guess he's just a little bit stuck in the moment. We'll get to plenty more on the NBA All-Star Weekend coming up in the second hour of the show. Maybe a little bit of a discussion about whether the earth is flat or not, though some people are thinking that topic has fallen flat now, Jason, or are we past it?
See what you did there? Falling flat? That was,
yeah, it was bad.
That was strong. See, I'm still maintaining that, it is. It's like the Truman Show. We're in a big trapper keeper. We just don't know it, but I will say, as somebody that I've had the opportunity to fly a lot in my life, if it's flat, I want some money back from the airlines because some of those times they absolutely took money from us, spinning us around in the air for 20 hours straight while we thought we were going around the world.
It shouldn't be a big deal because ultimately it's harmless, but it strikes a nerve with me because we live now in this age where all of a sudden facts have become assaulted. So the idea that you can possess an opinion that the world is flat, I respect everybody's opinion, but that's not an opinion. That's just being wrong. It's Jason Fitz and Robin Lundberg here in for McNabb and Custer on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Coming up, we've got some important audio from a variety of sources that we are compelled to react to. That's next here on ESPN Radio.
Yo, everybody get up! Everybody get up! Everybody needs to understand that I'm more than simply a hype man for this rap group, just like Geico is more than just a company that can save you money. Geico also has fast and friendly claim service, so they can help you when you need it most. And while I do love being a hype man, I also love reading for children's audiobooks. Like Little Bo Peep, she lost the sheep, and she don't know where to find them. Yo!
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
This just in, Wendy's is adding the quarter-pound double stack as an option in the 4 for $4 for a limited time. With so much beef, that's a deal so good it should not exist. In related news, howler monkeys should not be able to be heard from 3 miles away. Here to comment, a howler monkey.
Wow! That sounds like a really good deal!
Indeed. That's over a quarter-pound of fresh beef with 4 nuggets, fries, and a Coke, all for just $4. Anything else, howler monkey?
I'm not allowed in libraries!
At participating Wendy's for a limited time. Meal includes 4-piece nuggets, small fries, and drink. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada. Not valid in Alaska and Hawaii.
When you come to Applebee's for an all-in burger with fries and a bottomless Pepsi for just $9.99, you also get a shot at great instant win prizes. Sink your teeth into that. No purchase necessary. Open to legal 50 U.S. 18+. See rules at allintowinsweeps.com.
KD and Russ, Phil and Mello, Sir Charles and King James, and somehow the biggest story from All-Star Weekend 2017 could be Kyrie Irving? Details Monday on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Thursday. The NBA trade deadline inches closer. Who's loading up and who's unloading? Hear it here first. ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio honors Black History Month. What's it like to be a black athletic director in charge of a major conference program? ESPN's TheUndefeated.com conducted a roundtable discussion with African American athletic directors at some of the most elite athletic programs in the country.
There's an extra level of scrutiny as a black man in who I hire. You want to be very confident you've collected enough evidence to support that decision, because I will be questioned.
To hear the discussion and for more on Black History Month, go to TheUndefeated.com. The Undefeated. Not conventional, never boring.
You know you love the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
Do I have to choose right now?
Yes.
I want to think this out a little bit. I want to do what's best for the show.
You are a staller, a procrastinator. You don't finish anything. Man, it's like trying to have sex with a damn rattlesnake. It's just impossible to pin him down. Why do I know what that's like? The Dan Le Batard Show, now 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNRadio.com.
Russillo and Cannell.
Dominic Wilkins, why do you think so many people have come to the defense of Oakley, knowing that there's a chance maybe Oakley could have done something wrong, too, in this circumstance?
Well, I think because of the respect Oakley gets from a lot of players around the league, retired and current. You know, again, you just hope that they can resolve this problem and come to some type of happy medium and work this thing out, because it's not good for either side.
Russillo and Cannell on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
This is The Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio. Bomani.
This is how disingenuous the NCAA is when it comes down to paying players. They will have all these holes there where your pops can get some cash, or your pops can get a job, or your high school coach, he can wind up getting a job. You, player, actually out here endangering your own body. Nah, we're not giving you any money.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones, weekdays from 4 to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio or on the ESPN app.
Get it now. On demand.
Courtside with Katz and Coach G.
South Carolina head coach Frank Martin, you were able to keep everyone grounded after it looked like you were going to be an NCAA tournament team. How did you get those guys locked in to what we're seeing now, how it's paying off?
They basically accepted responsibility, approached every workout with a purpose to get better.
You can listen or subscribe to this and every podcast from ESPN on the Listen tab of the ESPN app. ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm Alan Siegel. It is All-Star Weekend in the NBA, and with the skills competition last night, the highlight of the weekend occurs tonight in New Orleans with the 66th All-Star Game, where the East holds a 37-28 advantage over the West. Russell Westbrook has won the last 2 MVP awards, and he is also at the center of one of the biggest stories of the weekend, the relationship between him and Kevin Durant. Now, they are on the same team tonight, and Kevin Durant, for one, would like to see the focus change a bit from where it has been.
Everybody loves drama, man. And everybody, it feels like we're in a big soap opera, reality TV show. So many people want to know about a relationship or a phone call, or instead of worrying about the game, which is the most important thing. And I'm sure both of us and the rest of the players here feel the same way.
Well, you can hear the 66th All-Star Game tonight right here on ESPN Radio with coverage beginning at 7:30 Eastern Time. Well, the finalists for this year's Basketball Hall of Fame include, among others, Chris Webber, Sidney Moncrief, Tracy McGrady, Rebecca Lobo, and coaches Raleigh Massimino, Bill Self, and Kim Mulkey. Busy day in the NHL with 11 games on the schedule. Play has already begun in New York, where the Rangers are hosting the top team in the league, the Washington Capitals. And right now, with about 5 minutes to go in the first period, it's the Rangers leading the Capitals, a 1-0 Ryan McDonough, his third of the year at 7:49. Only 3 games involved in the top 25 today, and just about to tip off in Madison, 11th ranked Wisconsin, 23rd ranked Maryland. Been a rough weekend in L.A., where weather has played havoc with the Genesis Open at the famed Riviera Country Club. Third round resumed this morning after play was suspended last night because of darkness. They try and finish up the tournament today. Right now, Justin Johnson has the lead. He's at 13 under par.
With Love out 6 weeks, will the Cavs make a trade? Who else could be on the move? Jay Williams has the latest on Thursday's NBA trade deadline. It's Monday on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Now, Now, McNabb and Custer on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
McNabb and Custer on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests on the show, Pennzoil Performance Line. You can tweet us at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed, at ESPN Radio, at Jason Fitz, at Robin Lundberg. I'm Jason Fitz. He's Robin Lundberg, sitting in for the guys. It's the most decorated documentary of the year, winning over 45 awards, including Directors Guild of America, the Producers Guild of America, and 4 Critics' Choice Documentary Awards for Best Documentary Feature. Critics have declared it a triumph, a landmark achievement, and the #1 documentary of the year. And now it's an Academy Award nominee, O.J. Made in America, available in its entirety on the ESPN app and on Watch ESPN. So before we went to break, Robin told you there's some important audio we need to hear. So we're gonna get some assistance here. Producer Mike Yu is gonna come in. Mike, what do you got for us?
Good morning, guys. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're at, actually. So a couple sound bites kind of turned my ear today, and I'd like to throw some questions at you if I may. But first, let's listen to some audio. Last night, Glenn Robinson III won the slam dunk contest. Afterwards, spoke with Shelly Smith. Let's take a listen.
What does it mean to you to win this in front of such a storied crowd?
Yeah, I mean, it means a lot. You know, it's a dream come true for me. Quick story, you know, for those who don't know about me, my grandma, I used to want to dunk so bad that I had the jump sole shoes, I had the DVDs, I used to do everything. My grandma told me, boy, get outside and shoot them threes. And, you know, I did that. I started dunking my sophomore year in high school. This is a dream come true. 8 years later, won an NBA dunk contest.
Is she still with us? Was she able to see?
Say that again?
Is she still with us? Was she able to see?
No, she's at home watching, proud.
That's awesome.
All right, so the one thing I got out of that, and Robin, we'll start with you. Has your grandmother ever helped you out with your career before?
My grandmother helping me out with my career? No, I would say no. I mean, I loved both my grandparents are dead. But as far as my grandmother,
way to just take it there.
well, I mean, it's the truth, right? My grandmother helped me out with some things like she liked to play Scrabble. She helped me out with my Scrabble game, but I don't know if she ever helped me out with my career. So I would say. No, she would always reference a story when I told her when I was a kid that I didn't want to go to college and I wanted to open a pizza shop. She did repeat that to me a lot. That didn't help me with my career, though.
So she did help you out because now you don't run a pizza shop.
No, I do not run a pizza shop. That's an alternate reality, I suppose.
That's good. Jason, how about you?
If you did run a pizza shop, Robin, what type of pizza would you make?
I think I'd keep it simple. You know what's in vogue now it depends on if it's a restaurant, then I'm going with that, artsy, we bring it to the table with mushrooms and arugula and all that stuff, thin crust pizza. But if it's like a pizza shop, I'm just going New York style, regular sliced pizza.
How about you, Jason?
For the pizza shop or for the grandmother?
I mean, your grandparents would help you out with your career.
Well, actually, no, not really. I never really had a lot of relationship with my grandparents, but I will say this: I toured as a musician for most of my life, and I don't think any musician comes up in that world without a lot of advice from family in general, because no kid ever wants to go practice. So somebody's got to be over your shoulder the entire time saying go practice. And that's true whether you want to be an athlete or a musician. I think it sort of takes a village on that one to instill that discipline.
Very nice. So last night at the All-Star Saturday, which was on ESPN Radio, the Smoothie King Arena public address announcer made a boo-boo. Let's take a listen.
All right, fans, let's hear it for OKC's own Kevin Durant. Let's hear it for OKC's own Kevin Durant in the house.
Wait for it now. Wait for it.
From the Golden State Warriors, baby.
So, probably a little bit of a red face on that one. So, Jason, you start with this one off. What's the most embarrassing thing you've ever done in front of a very large crowd?
Oh man, I mean there are so many in my touring life. I will say this: we did when I was touring with the band Perry, we did a section where every guy was introduced, and so it was like a band intro thing. And I've never been that guy that wants to run to the edge of the stage and like do the whole I'm a rock star. That's not my personality. So I decided instead it would be awesome to dance because I can't dance. So I got some old like CNC Music Factory sort of stuff pumped into the house, and I did my worst. So I tried one time to do the worm, and I did not realize the worm is very difficult to do. So I sort of flatlined and hit the stage with a thump that made the whole crowd go in front of about 20,000 people. So that was good.
Ouch. And Robin, how about you? Now, of course, large crowd can also equal like high school gymnasium, something like that.
Well, I would say Well, I mean, there's one thing, just like making a terrible mistake on the air. You're not in front of a live crowd, but that always gets in your own head. And then I've done a lot of stand-up comedy and stuff, so playing for a particular audience or doing a gig for a particular audience and just having a joke fall flat or them not being your audience. Like one time I did it at one of these like casinos that's not a real casino, you know, like the ones that are like all video casino games, and the audience was a high demographic of colostomy bags, and my humor was not exactly hitting the mark there. So to stand up on a stage and just not get the desired reaction you want, that can be pretty embarrassing and a shot to your self-esteem.
So, Robin, I have to ask you, from the stand-up comedy side, I always find this interesting because when you tour as a musician, you sort of work your set out, right? So once it's worked out, it's pretty much worked out. And so, case in point, many years ago, we were playing, and the first song was a song called Done. So we came out and I had to play a fiddle solo while I jumped up and down. And you knew at that point whether or not you were going to win the night, right? Because if you jump up and down while you play the toughest fiddle solo and people don't react, you know you're not going to win. So we went out that night and it was like this big celebrity fundraiser in Tahoe. And so we go out and I jump up and down and I play, and Aaron Rodgers is like 3 rows back and he just sits there with the arms folded, disinterested look, shrugs his shoulders at the end. So he gave me the not that impressive look. So as a musician, you're just up a creek at that point. You can't really change. The set's done. When you're doing stand up and you know that it's just not going well, can you veer, or are you just sort of stuck down the path or down the rabbit hole?
It's possible. Look, I mean, it's a hard hill to climb, but it's possible if you start to figure out who the audience is and what they're going to hear, and then if you can riff on the correct thing, including riffing on how poorly you're doing. Sometimes that can win over the audience, or you know, getting combative in a friendly sense where you're not like, you know, cursing them out, but you're being combative in the idea that they're not participating the way they should.
I do have one life goal at this point left to conquer, and that is to sit front row at Lambeau and wait until Aaron Rodgers completes a touchdown pass and then fold my arms and indifferently shrug at him as he runs by. So
yeah, it's pretty incredible that he would give you that sort of shade.
Not that I'm still angry about it. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. Mike, you got any more?
I was going to say that's quite the goal there. Yeah, let's take a listen to John Calipari, Kentucky head coach, yesterday after their win, decided to take umbrage with the way that Mark Gottfried, the NC State coach who's been fired but still going to finish out the season, how he's being treated. Let's take a listen to Coach Cal.
We're firing coaches in midseason. Are you shitting me? We're firing coaches in midseason. Do you know what I'm putting in my contract? You can fire me at midseason, but you're going to have to pay me $3 million. Oh, you'll let me stay now, won't you? There's a new one that's going to be in the contract, Dwayne. You can fire me midseason, but you're paying me. I mean, why would I even have to think of that? Now, every coach in the country, put it in your contract. What if Mark Gottfried goes at the end and goes on a run, gets to the NCAA tournament, which he was in 4 out of 5 years, 2 Sweet 16s, which is not done at NC State? What happens now if he goes and he wins and he gets another team? He had good players, but they're young. They're like my team. It's hard to do this with young guys.
Now, my question, again, we'll start with Robin on this one, is, we can discuss till the cows come home about the whole what should we do about firing coaches midseason. But, Robin, don't you think that Coach Cal should have asked for more than $3 million?
Well, Coach Cal could pretty much ask for whatever he wants at this point. We were just talking about Nick Saban before. I mean, Coach Calipari, Coach Krzyzewski, that's about as high as you get in the college basketball ranks. One thing that's interesting to me is the coaches really stick up for each other. Like, no matter what, even sometimes. Like, you'll see a guy get fired after their team is you know, in the NBA or something, their team is 20 games under 500, and Jeff Van Gundy will be on the telecast talking about how great a job the guy did. Like, those, stick, and there's something commendable about it, but it does seem like there's a bit of a brotherhood. And I guess that goes for all of it, because with the Charles Oakley situation in the NBA, you had a lot of players referencing that whether or not you're a current player or a former player, they all have some sort of solidarity. So that's part of the equation there, I guess, with Calipari's strong words.
I mean, let me make sense of this for a second. Coaching contracts are already guaranteed. So the guy's done such a poor job of living up to expectations that he gets fired, and he should get a $3 million pump for that. That's like the guy, if you go order food and they get it wrong at the drive-thru and they fire them and they're like, well, sorry, before we fire you, we have to give you a buyout, even though you didn't do your job. Like, I have no problem at some point saying expectations means that coaches are held to a certain standard. And if they don't meet those standards, now you got to pay the coach more. I mean, if that gets worked into every deal across America, what we could just do is just do our job really poorly. Like, we'll just mail in the back half of the show and just get a bonus check for it because, hey, they can't let us go. I hate all of this, especially considering Calipari's contract is guaranteed. I mean, he's getting paid either way.
You're not going to mail in the back half of the show, though, right?
No, heck no.
I just want to make sure.
Never for you, Mike. Never.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Look, we've been talking all day about how to make All-Star Game, All-Star Weekend better. We want to get your thoughts on it. 888-SAY-ESPN, 1-888-729-3776. Give us your thoughts, and we'll continue to look at that on the other side. You are listening to McNabb and Custer on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Will KD and Westbrook share the floor in Sunday night's All-Star Game as teammates once again? The latest from All-Star Weekend Monday on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Most Tuesdays are just Tuesdays, except at Buffalo Wild Wings, where Tuesdays are Wing Tuesdays. But now even Wing Tuesdays aren't just Wing Tuesdays, because Wing Tuesdays are half-price Wing Tuesdays, which means your boring Tuesday that became Wing Tuesday now costs you half as much. In case you're confused, we have half-price Wing Tuesdays. We do it for you. Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports.
Prices and participation vary. See participating locations for details. Void where prohibited.
Progressive presents Mindflowness with Flow.
You feel yourself getting lighter with each Progressive discount. Paperless, safe driver, multi-car. Yes, lighter, like a new line of sneakers. Or a slugger on a crash diet the week before spring training. Stay away from the cheesecake.
Ascend to a higher plane of insurance with Progressive. Visit Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
NFL fans, go to NFLshop.com today and check out all the hottest new officially licensed Nike apparel and new era team gear.
You got one, I got you another one.
Whether you're looking for the perfect gift or just getting ready for the 2016 season, NFL Shop is the perfect place to find a gift for yourself and others. Choose from the largest selection for all 32 teams.
Look good, feel good, play good.
Go to NFLshop.com for the best NFL products for yourself or anyone on your shopping list.
This is the sound of everyday engine threats like gunk, wear, and corrosion, unleashing their wrath on your engine. Now, this is the sound of Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline, providing the best total engine protection you can get. Period. Think all premium fuels are the same? Think again. Choose Shell V-Power Nitro Plus today.
Check out my latest find, a Babe Ruth autographed baseball I bought from University Archives. Okay, I'm on universityarchives.com. Abraham Lincoln, Muhammad Ali, Marilyn Monroe, Einstein, a book signed by the first 40 Super Bowl MVPs. These are unbelievable.
Own a museum-quality piece of America's history, from signed rare books and letters to other personal possessions of the most iconic figures of past and present. Go to universityarchives.com, where you can bid on truly remarkable collectibles.
The NBA All-Star Game today.
Here's Curry behind the back, half-court heave on its way, and he hits it!
Coverage begins today at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Monday morning with Greeny and Golick. Peter Rosenberg fresh from the NBA Celebrity Game, plus Booger McFarland and Jay Williams. It's Mike and Mike, starting at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. With Love out 6 weeks, will the Cavs make a trade? Who else could be on the move? Jay Williams has the latest on Thursday's NBA trade deadline. It's Monday on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. This
For the win! Yes!
is the home court
Let's it go!
of college basketball.
For three in the win!
ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio honors Black History Month. Go to theundefeated.com for the Undefeated 44, a collection of dreamers, geniuses, innovators, and record breakers. This is not a list of the greatest African Americans of all time. It's simply the Undefeated 44.
I still have a dream.
I stand here today humbled by the task before us.
In the great tradition of African American culture.
For more stories on Black history, go to theundefeated.com. The Undefeated. Not conventional, never boring.
McNabb and Custer on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Sitting in for the boys. I'm Jason Fitz. He's Robin Lundberg. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, creators of the Name Your Price tool. Choose from a range of coverage options and pick the price that works for you. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. How would you guys fix All-Star Saturday? And sort of here's where we are with it. 888-729-3776. Robin, I watched last night, and I can't get the sinking feeling out of my mind that I felt like I was watching the big kids sit on the sideline while the little kids got their chance to shine. And I don't think that's the right look for the NBA on what could be a huge, great night for them.
I understand that coming from last night. I do. But I don't think it's broken. I thought last year was awesome. Some of the craziest things I've ever seen. Now, I guess I'm a bit of a purist because I'd rather see the best dunkers than the biggest stars. And it ebbs and flows to me. Sometimes you have great years, sometimes you have bad years. If I was going to do one thing to fix it, maybe I would incentivize the performance. Something on the line. We all love something on the line, right? I mean, even, let's say, a TV show like Around the Horn. I was an intern on Around the Horn when I was a kid. They're not really playing for anything, but there's a scoring system, right? So there is a winner at the end. So when you're doing an event like Saturday night, if there was something on the line, aside from just winning, like whether it was a cash prize or something that would be big bragging rights, not only would that add a more compelling story to what's actually taking place, the three-point shootout and the dunk contest, but it might also get people to participate because it's fun or there's something that they actually want to win, some of the guys that you're talking about who are watching from the sideline.
Tweet us at 1-800-Flowers.com, Twitter feed, at ESPN Radio, at Jason Fitz, at Robin Lundberg. What about getting some of the legends involved, too? I mean, I thought that was interesting at the end when you see Reggie Miller, take off the jacket and obviously pre-planned, but you see Reggie come in and there's this moment where he's going to take over a little bit of the spotlight. I think that's an interesting concept of trying to tie in sort of the guys that brought the game to where it is with the guys that are trying to take the game to where it can go.
Well, if you, let's see how the Ice Cube League does, right? Because if that works and people are interested in it, you could do that. You could have a 3-on-3 game between past NBA legends. As they used to have, I don't think they do it anymore because I didn't see it last night. The skills competition, I think, works. The 3-point shootout and dunk contest work. If they added one more event, it used to be the shooting contest of the whatever they called it when it was a WNBA player, an NBA player, and a former great. And they would shoot for layup, and then they shoot a jumper, and then they shoot three-pointer and half court. If you replace that with a 3-on-3 game with former greats, I think that might definitely resonate with people.
Jerome in Seattle on 710 ESPN Seattle. Jerome, what would you add to All-Star Weekend?
I would add one-on-one games with like a cash prize to the winner. If you have say Steph Curry and Russell Westbrook, who are both, up there at the top of the food chain for their position. They can play one-on-one to see who's the starter for bragging rights for the season. You could have John Wall versus Kyrie Irving, and just have them play one-on-one just to, see who's the top dog.
Jerome, thanks for the call, man. I love that idea. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Sort of how would you fix everything we're seeing this weekend, or would you fix it? I mean, go ahead.
Can I say something about the one-on-one idea? Mm-hmm. I think it's compelling. I would absolutely watch it, but there's a part of me that's bothered by it because one-on-one is not basketball, and some of the players would, for instance, be maybe diminished by losing a one-on-one game, but it's not an accurate portrayal of their actual skill set because passing's a huge part of basketball, right? All that stuff. So there are certain players whose game, like DeMar DeRozan, would kill it in a one-on-one competition, but he is nowhere near as good a player as he is, the likes of LeBron and Steph and all those guys that we're talking about.
Yeah, but to me, the whole conversation is about how do you make it as engaging for everybody as possible. So while it may not be basketball in its truest form, isn't that sort of what the NHL has done with their All-Star game where they have, limited rosters skating 3-on-3 for $1 million? I mean, there's a point where that's not true hockey, but it's an engaging way to present the game. I mean, I think to that extent, engaging people, engaging the casual fan and trying to turn the casual fan into a super fan of the product is the goal of All-Star Weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, I concede. You're right.
Coach Francis, listening in New Hampshire on the ESPN app. Thanks for calling. What do you got?
Hey, good morning, guys. And I second what he just said. Basketball is where you have a hoop and a ball. Doesn't even care if it's a garbage can. As long as you have it in your mind, you want to play ball, that's what's up. Okay, let me get to my point. the wheel of dunks. Everybody has their classic dunk that they love. Their Larry Nance two-hand jam, Dr. J, of course, the Kenny Skywalker coming over the rim, the original was J.R. Ryder when he went through the legs and left hand. Put all your classic dunks on the wheel, first round. If you don't hit the dunk the first time, you out. Because everybody now wants to do all these tricks. Do a classic dunk. Wheel of dunks. What do you think?
I actually, Coach, thanks for the call. I love a wheel. Anytime you put a wheel in, and now you got a visual, I love that. Like the little bit of suspense. I'm all in. Robin, what do you think?
I think that's a fantastic idea, not only because it's cool, it tugs at the nostalgia heartstrings, and we all know nostalgia is a heck of a drug, but it also... It would give me great pleasure to see how easily these guys do those dunks and how mad it would make some people because they would do those dunks so easily. It's like almost laughable to me, like to think of it as a challenge for somebody to do the D Brown dunk where he covers his eyes, or the Isaiah Ryder dunk when he went between the legs and it was such a big deal. Now we're seeing people bounce the ball off the ceiling and go between the legs while jumping over 4 people. Those dunks would be so easy for players to complete. It would be laughable.
So let's marry a couple of different ideas. Let's take a bunch of celebrities that can't. I mean, here's the thing. Not that you and I are celebrities, but I can't dunk. I mean, they'd have to give me like a 5-foot rim. I'm 5'9.5", so 5-foot rim. I feel good about that. And I'd need a kid's basketball because my hands are tiny. So you give me a kid's basketball and a small rim. I'd love to. It would be interesting to see how Bieber replicates if he has to spin the wheel and he has to do the Jordan dunk. Let's see how a celebrity does. We could marry the two ideas.
I've always wanted to dunk just one time. I've played basketball my whole life. I've always wanted to dunk just one time. I do think I could have beat Wesley Matthews in the three-point shootout last night, though. I do honestly believe I would have had a chance to beat him. I could put up 11.
David in Arizona listening on Sirius XM Channel 80. David, thanks for calling, man. What do you got?
Hey, you bet. Hey, maybe the anti-voice here, but can we really make this better if the real All-Stars, they don't want to participate. They want to get dressed. They want to show up, and if I'm an owner, I don't want Steph Curry out there playing one-on-one with Westbrook. I don't want Harden out there playing one-on-one with anybody. So I'm not sure what the payroll, the money these guys are making, and frankly, when I see their disinterest on the sidelines, I think we're stuck with what we got. The celebrity game, not interesting. Unless we want to get some real ballers, some real celebrities that know how to play, I turn that off.
Well, and David, I think that to that extent, that's part of the issue for everybody is finding, getting that level of interest, whether it's for a celeb or whether it's for one of the stars of the NBA. We have to get these people. The NBA has a huge celebrity group of fans. They need to find a way to get those guys engaged. And while that may not appeal to you, I think DJ Khaled is a great example of somebody. If he's playing in a one-on-one or trying to dunk a basketball in general, there are a lot of casual fans that put their eyeballs on it. That's the goal for me.
P. Berg #1 tweets in, Jason, this is an interesting idea. Must be an all-star to do Saturday night. Simple. No sitting through a bunch of 12th men dunking. Remember Harold Miner? No one cares. They used to call Harold Miner Baby Jordan, by the way.
Right.
Just so everybody remembers that.
I love that idea. I mean, and again, I think it's a bad look when you're watching the broadcast and you see the stars on the sideline. Speaking of the stars, LeBron, Steph, where is it now? How big of a rivalry is this? We'll get into that. McNabb and Custer on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Hi, this is Maury Moreland Morrison, here to tell you Geico has more than just great savings. Much more. Geico's been around for more than 75 years, back when they were using Morse code. Sorry, that's just my sense of humor. What's more, with Geico you get 24/7 access to licensed agents on the app, online, or over the phone, so you can talk to them at night or in the morning. So forevermore, just know that no other auto insurer has more than Geico. More power to you. Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
This just in, Wendy's is adding the quarter-pound double stack as an option in the 4 for $4 for a limited time. With so much beef, that's a deal so good it should not exist. In related news, howler monkeys should not be able to be heard from 3 miles away. Here to comment, a howler monkey.
Wow! That sounds like a really good deal!
Indeed. That's over a quarter-pound of fresh beef with 4 nuggets, fries, and a Coke, all for just $4. Anything else, howler monkey?
I'm not allowed in libraries!
At participating Wendy's for a limited time. Meal includes 4-piece nuggets, small fries, and drink. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada. Not valid in Alaska and Hawaii.
The 2017 NBA All-Star Game. DeRozan, Kyrie, and LeBron lead the Eastern Stars into New Orleans.
Butler throws it down with two hands. Wow. Kyrie Irving. James splits a double, drives and throws it home.
To face the West, led by Kawhi, Durant, and Curry.
James Harden stirring it up. Durant throws it down. Nothing but net. Steph Curry.
Coverage begins today at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Monday on Mike and Mike, KD and Russ, Sir Charles and King James, and somehow the biggest story from All-Star Weekend could be Kyrie Irving.
Kyrie, the earth is flat, right?
Yeah.
Full reaction from NBA All-Star Weekend 2017 with Jay Williams and Peter Rosenberg. Plus, the NBA trade deadline is Thursday. Who's on the move? And looking at this year's 14 Basketball Hall of Fame nominees, the guys have all the latest Monday on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Now that Applebee's Bourbon Street Chicken and Shrimp is only $9.99, ordering dinner just became a no-brainer. And that means you can spend more time on life's bigger questions, like which appetizer to get. Price and participation may vary. See restaurant for details.
The NBA on ESPN Radio.
James drive, puts it up with an emphatic right hand. Out to Curry and another three's up and in.
Now available on the ESPN app. Mike and Mike.
Superstars want their turn with the ball. Was Russell Westbrook taking that away from Kevin Durant? He was, but the thing about it is Russell Westbrook's a star as well.
That's what I mean. In the NBA right now, in order to win, you can't have just one star.
No, you cannot.
Because look at the teams that have just one star. They have no chance of winning.
I'm saying I didn't have an issue with it, but you're asking me if Kevin Durant had an issue with it. Maybe he did. And as we found out, it seems their relationship wasn't as close as we thought.
Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
ESPN Radio honors Black History Month. How did the world-famous Harlem Globetrotters, known for their fun-loving and entertaining style of basketball showmanship, deal with racism off the court from their inception in 1927 through the civil rights era of the 60s?
In our 90 years, we have played on 6 continents, 122 countries and territories. We've been all over the world, putting smiles on kids' faces.
Their story on ESPN's TheUndefeated.com. The Undefeated. Not conventional, never boring.
You know you love the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
A texter writes in, Pablo talking about LeBron, good God, this show is awful. How do you have such a low understanding of what's interesting and what isn't?
I would say it's your greatest trait.
And the show is wildly popular. So I think you're wrong on not trusting my barometer on what's interesting.
The Dan Le Batard Show, now 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNRadio.com.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm Alan Siegel with the All-Star Saturday Night Competition behind them, where Glenn Robinson became the slam dunk champion, Eric Gordon the three-point king, and Kristaps Porzingis the skills leader. The players will concentrate on the game itself tonight in New Orleans. It is East meets West for the 66th time. There are lots of storylines this weekend. For instance, the King, LeBron James, making his 13th straight start, which ties him with the great Bob Cousy for the most consecutive All-Star starts in NBA history. He was also asked this weekend about his rivalry with Steph Curry of the Warriors. And the word rivalry is one that LeBron did not feel too comfortable with.
I don't have a rivalry with Steph Curry. There's no way you can say, let's talk about a rivalry, and you say Bird and Magic, Carolina Duke, Ohio State, Michigan, and then say LeBron and Steph. It's disrespectful to those other three that I just named, that you even try to put us in the class with that. We haven't had enough battles, and who's to say we will have future battles, we'll see. But to put us in category with, it's impossible. We can't do it.
Also tonight, Russell Westbrook will be looking for his 3rd straight MVP award. He is the first to win the award in back-to-back seasons, and should he win it tonight, he'll become the 6th player to win the award 3 times. And coverage of the All-Star Game begins tonight at 7:30 Eastern Time, right here on ESPN Radio. One final professional basketball note. It comes from China. Former NBA first-round pick Jimmer Fredette, remember him, scored 73 points in a Chinese Basketball Association game today. 4th highest total in league history. 82 points was once scored by Eric McCollum, who's the brother of Portland's C.J. McCollum. For the Great American Race, the Daytona 500, it's next Sunday, and this is known as Speed Week. Today at Daytona, there was an exhibition called The Clash, won by Joey Logano. In the top 25 this afternoon, there are 3 games. Right now, with about 8 minutes to go in the first half, Wisconsin, 11th ranked, 23rd ranked Maryland, they are tied at 15. A little later on, it'll be DePaul and Butler, and Georgetown and 20th ranked Creighton. Action in the National Hockey League this afternoon. End of one period of play. Rangers lead the Capitals 1-0. Ryan McDonough, number 3. And third-round play is underway in the rain-delayed Genesis Open at Riviera Country Club in Los Angeles. They're playing in threesomes off split tees in order to try and finish the tournament today. Dustin Johnson has the lead at 14 under par, and he's in position to become the new number 1 player in the world. Wesley Bryan is second at 12 under. Cameron Tringali third at 10 under par.
Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Steph Curry, and the Western Conference All-Stars take the court against LeBron James, Isaiah Thomas, Jimmy Butler, and the Eastern Conference All-Stars. The NBA All-Star Game, tonight at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
McNabb and Custer on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. John Barry, NBA on ESPN Radio, analyst on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Tune in tonight for the 66th NBA All-Star Game live from New Orleans. Coverage begins at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on most ESPN radio stations. John, you'll be providing the game analysis for ESPN Radio. Thanks for joining us, my friend.
Sure. How you doing?
Oh, we're great. So what do you expect to see tonight with Durant and Westbrook?
Not a whole lot. They've been avoiding each other pretty well thus far. That's what I'm anxious to see. I think everybody's talking about it, obviously. But my thing is this. Think about all the All-Star games. There has been more hatred between players in years past than these guys, I mean, think about all those times when Bill Laimbeer made an All-Star team. Like, guys couldn't stand him, and yet they were still teammates. It's like we make so much of this. And all the social media now, it's such a big deal. But this is certainly not the first time, and there's been a lot of other cases of people disliking each other that became teammates in an All-Star game.
Well, there's certainly something there between those two guys, John. But for a rivalry, there doesn't have to be a out-and-out dislike. And I found LeBron James's comments about Steph Curry kind of interesting, where he says there's not a rivalry there. And I take umbrage with what LeBron is saying, because last year you could tell he was bothered by all the NBA is now Steph's league talk, and he blocked them and grimaced in the finals. He made disc cookies afterwards at a party where you had to step over a Steph Curry doll to get in. If that doesn't scream rivalry, what exactly is a rivalry in today's day and age?
Yeah, no, it's a rival. You meet 2 years in a row in the NBA Finals and say they're the 2 best players on their respective teams. That becomes a rival, and whether he wants to admit it or not, it doesn't matter. I think we all see it that way, and there's no doubt about it. And they look like they're on a collision course to go 3 years in a row, which is unprecedented. So he's going to have to say it's a rivalry after this year if these 2 teams meet in the finals.
John Barry, NBA on ESPN Radio, analyst on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, joining us. So, John, when it comes to these All-Star games, how much of the drama from the rest of the season really carries over, or do these guys just sort of take this moment to soak in being with friends and playing in that moment?
Yeah, I think it's just a celebration of getting here, and very rarely do you get a really competitive game. You just like to have it kind of close towards the end of the game, and then you'll see guys kind of dig in and try to stop each other and try to win the game. But, yeah, it's a celebration. Guys, look, they're not going to overexert themselves unless your name's Russell Westbrook. He knows one way to play. He's won the MVP 2 years in a row. I wouldn't be surprised if he did it again this year. But for the most part, just celebrating these guys being out on the floor. And that is the cool thing is, when you're in an arena and you have the collection of the greatest basketball players in the world, there is a buzz in there that is like no other. And, you just celebrate these guys, and you're going to see some terrific plays and all that. But just to have these guys collectively in one arena is very, very cool.
John, you knew you were going to have the Durant and Westbrook story. You knew anytime LeBron is participating, he in himself is a huge star. You knew you were going to have the Carmelo possible trade rumors once he was subbed in for Kevin Love. Did you know that you would be discussing the shape of the earth this All-Star game?
Yeah. Kyrie has put that out there. He doesn't seem to be too convincing of an argument, but I'll take his word for it, I guess. I'm going to stick with round, though. But that has been an interesting sidebar for sure.
Can you ask Kyrie or Draymond or anybody? Can you ask them how it is so that we will be watching here in the United States the All-Star game with the sun down, but in China, where there are a lot of NBA fans, they'll be watching it with the sun up?
That's a pretty good analogy there. I don't know that you can really argue that one. I'm going to have to bring that up to Kyrie and see what he thinks about that.
So, John, part of our discussion today has been a little bit about the weekend as a whole and what the league could do or should do to better engage the guys on last night's festivities. When you look at sort of what last night was, is it broken? Does it need to be fixed, or do you like it the way it is?
Yeah, no, it needs some tweaks. The problem was last year was so good that we thought it was bad. And the dunk contest was terrific last year, and the three-point shooting was great because Steph and Clay were in it. And, you just didn't really have the star power on the dunk side. They were weak. What makes it tough is when you go one by one and you miss a dunk, it just takes all the luster and all the excitement comes out of the building. And then even if that person gets the next one to go, once you miss it, it's gone. It's a dead feeling in the arena. So my proposal is you just let these guys go in a layup line and play some music and let them dunk, get as many dunks as they want. Put 10 minutes on the clock or whatever. They can go at their leisure, and you'll know who the best dunker is. But when you put them on stage and they miss a dunk, it just kind of takes the air out of the balloon.
John, you brought up the point that I had brought up, which is if we were doing this show after last year, we'd be talking about how some of the dunks we saw were the craziest things we've ever seen. It would be on Kyrie's side not believing in gravity or something anymore. I mean, do we have to make it a referendum every single year? It's not like every game that you call, if it's a bad game, you come out saying, how are we going to fix the sport? Because the next game might be a great one. It just seems to me that we do this on a year in and year out basis. I guess it's the nature of the beast, being that we have so many media outlets and being that this is a celebration in and of itself, isolated. But I don't know if we have to do this grand evaluation every single time.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Just change it up. I got no problem with that. But again, last year was so great. It really was. It was one of the best dunk contests we ever saw. So you had one of the guys that was in it again this year, and then he flames out and goes out in the first round. So, I mean, you never know. I mean, I change it every year. I keep it the same. I don't know. I mean, something needs to change because last night was totally dead.
McNabb and Coaster on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Jason Fitz, Robin Lundberg sitting in for the guys. John Barry joining us. So the question is, last night, was it an issue with the quality of dunks or an issue of the quality of brand of guys that were competing in your mind?
Well, it was a little bit of both. I mean, you didn't have crazy star power. Obviously, DeAndre Jordan from the Clippers. But he's a 7-foot guy. Those guys always have problems in dunk contests, the bigger that you are. Gordon was a bigger guy. And then Derrick Jones Jr., this guy had 3 dunks in his NBA career, and they happened last week. So, when people don't really know who you are, that means something, too. LeBron James could come out there and do some pedestrian dunks, and people would go crazy. So star power does have a lot to do with it. But I thought overall, most of the dunks were pretty weak. Glenn Robinson's, he deserved to win. He had 2 of the best dunks of the night. But again, when you miss dunks, there was a lot of missed dunks last night, and it really put a damper on the whole competition.
Fantastic stuff. John Barry, NBA on ESPN Radio analyst. John's providing the game analysis on ESPN Radio in New Orleans. John, thanks for taking the time to join us, my friend.
Okay, guys.
Choose Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline for the best total engine protection you can get. John Barry joined us as part of the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. So I have to ask you, Robin, when you think about everything John just told us, one of the things that he mentioned was, for the 3rd straight year, it's likely that we end up with the Cavs and Golden State facing each other for the championship. The question then becomes, is that good for the NBA in your mind?
Yeah, I do think it's good. Look, I would like it, as I think most people would, if there was some more drama in the fact that you thought it was more believable. Now that they're challenged, it could happen. The Cavs are not guaranteed to make it through the East. They've suffered a lot of injuries. We just saw Toronto get a little bit better. Washington is playing really well. Who knows what they could do at the deadline. Boston, they have that Brooklyn pick to work with, but I think it's exceedingly likely that the Cavs, especially because they have LeBron, he's different than everybody, basically a one-man dynasty, make it through the East. In the West, I'm not sure who challenges Golden State if they stay healthy. I think Houston might actually have the best personnel to do so. Then Utah might actually be next, but I don't trust them to have a guy to get the buckets down the stretch. So that leads to a little bit of an anticlimactic buildup. But when you get to the final, what everybody is going to tune into, you talk about star power. Well, Cavs Warriors has more star power than any other series that's possible. Cavs Warriors has more storylines than any other series that's possible. So to sort of flip what you said, don't you think everyone would be kind of disappointed if it was something other than Cavs Warriors in the finals?
I do, actually, and that's part of the interesting process for my brain, because I think in the other major sports right now, if you look at the NFL, there's a little bit of fatigue with the Patriots. If you look at college football, the constant story of Alabama is creating fatigue. So it's interesting that because of the star power behind this particular rivalry, I don't feel like that fatigue is setting in. Now, it raises a great question, because LeBron and Curry, look, they're the two biggest brands in the NBA. And in my mind, they're a rivalry. The question is, how big of a rivalry? Is it real? We'll look at that on the other side. McNabb and Custer on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Jason Fitz, Robin Lundberg sitting in for the boys.
This Thursday is the NBA trade deadline, and some big names could be on the move. The latest with Jay Williams Monday on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Progressive presents Mindfulness with Flow.
You are on a spiritual journey towards savings. Your mind is drifting into uncharted territory as you use the Name Your Price tool to find policy options that fit your budget. Options that fit perfectly. Like football pants. Or the unitard thingies wrestlers wear.
Experience inner peace with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive. Visit Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
ESPN. Supported by Blue Apron. Blue Apron partners with sustainable farms, fisheries, and ranchers to bring you all the ingredients you need to create incredible home-cooked meals. Ingredients come paired with an easy-to-follow recipe card delivered to your door weekly in a refrigerated box. Rediscover how fun cooking can be while enjoying specialty ingredients and exploring new flavors and cuisines. Get your first 3 Blue Apron meals free, plus free shipping by visiting blueapron.com/ESPN.
Monday on Mike and Mike, KD and Russ, Sir Charles and King James, and somehow the biggest story from All-Star Weekend could be Kyrie Irving?
Kyrie, the earth is flat, right?
Yeah. Full reaction from NBA All-Star Weekend 2017 with Jay Williams and Peter Rosenberg. Plus, the NBA trade deadline is Thursday. Who's on the move? And looking at this year's 14 Basketball Hall of Fame nominees, the guys have all the latest Monday on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
ESPN Radio honors Black History Month. Willie O'Ree is often called the Jackie Robinson of hockey. Learn how O'Ree, who made his NHL debut on January 18, 1958 with the Boston Bruins, was able to play despite being legally blind in his right eye.
I didn't realize at the time that I had broken barriers and opened doors. It wasn't until I read it in the paper.
His story and more on ESPN's TheUndefeated.com. The Undefeated. Not conventional, never boring.
This one's good if it goes. Oh, dude! Oh, goodness! Cow! Are you kidding me?
The ACC and Big 12 tournament.
Are you kidding?
Coming in March to ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. This week in sports history, February 20th, 1996. The Utah Jazz's John Stockton became the NBA's all-time leader in steals with 2,311. Celebrating 25 years of ESPN Radio. Russillo and Cannell.
I like Draymond a lot. I just think he's incredibly wrong here. Dolan is an owner. He is an owner of a franchise, not an owner of a person. So he can be wrong. None of us can like him, but he can also just be doing something to Oakley that's wrong just because he doesn't like the guy. Am I so naive to think we could still maybe have things in present day that are just about one guy not liking someone else and not making it about a historical event?
Russillo and Cannell on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
McNabb and Custer on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Presented by Progressive Insurance. I'm Jason Fitz. He's Robin Lundberg. We're sitting in for the guys. Having a good time, Robin. It's been fun.
No doubt about it. I have a question I want to ask you, Jason, because you're a well-rounded dude. You got NFL insiders coming up Monday through Wednesday, right, this week?
Yeah. I don't know how, but somehow I convinced them to let me host a TV show for a few days. So I'm going to stand up there and try not to mess things up for them.
And I'm reading your Twitter account. It says you're a former fiddle band for Perry, but Grammy voter.
Yes.
Did you have a vote in this year's Grammys?
Yes.
What did you vote for Album of the Year?
So album or record?
Record's like a funny way of saying song. The
album, the full album. I went
one that Adele Kanye'd herself on.
I went with Beyonce.
Okay.
And I'll tell you this is I've said this repeatedly about that particular record. If you listen to just one song from Lemonade, it's okay, right? But when you listen through the entire thing front to back, I think it's a remarkably raw sort of examination of whether it's manufactured or not. It feels remarkably raw examination of that process you went through and how sort of raw it was made me feel, and that I respect that.
You know, Beyonce, I was never the biggest fan back in the day. Her self-titled record I thought was really good. And then this, whenever I can use the phrase magnum opus, I like to use it. And I think this was her magnum opus. And it just felt like, Adele's record felt like kind of blah to me. Not nearly as impactful as 21 was. I'm also not I respect the heck out of Adele's ability to sing, but sometimes I feel like it's the same note all the time. Like she's just like sort of singing at me, and I'd like to hear a little bit of a variation in the presentation.
I'm with you on that 1,000%. And it's funny because my wife is a huge old Beyonce fan. Like she likes the fun stuff, and she likes she's was a dancer for many years, so she likes to do that sort of, like she likes that vibe and energy. I never really bought into that. I like the new Beyonce stuff, and she doesn't. So it's kind of funny that we can go to a Beyonce show and both appreciate different sort of segments of the show. But I'm with you on Adele. I think the note that she hit on 21 was fantastic. I just haven't seen anything since then that feels like there's any more growth to it. So it just didn't hit me. And I'm that guy, unashamed of the fact that in the past I've voted for Taylor Swift for Grammys, for example, not because I look at her musicality or her singing and say, oh my God, she's amazing. But I think that when you create memories for people if you are the biggest memory for a year in music, I think that deserves some credit. So I'm not your usual always left of center voter, but I thought the Lemonade album was spectacular.
So you and your wife have a rivalry, much like Jay-Z and Beyonce did on Lemonade. Is LeBron James and Steph Curry a rivalry?
Doesn't it have to be at this point? I mean, how many more things do you have to see when you're talking about a third straight? Again, we're presuming at this point, everybody's presuming we're going to get to a third straight matchup in the finals, and I think that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants a rubber match, right? So you look at this, and the way it feels right now, it sort of reminds me when I was a kid, it was Lakers-Celtics, right? The Lakers and the Celtics were always playing in what felt like important games or the finals, and that's sort of the era I grew up in. I feel like that is what's happened now and what is happening with LeBron Curry, I think, for an entire generation, because we are now at a spot where players are more identified than teams. It becomes these two guys, no matter where they play, for the next several years, are going to be identified as the rivalry.
You bring up a point that I always find almost laughable, right? There are people that are railing against the current state of the NBA and how so many predictable matchups come up in the finals and it's the same teams. But the NBA has always been like those same people wax poetic about the Lakers and Celtics meeting every single year, or the Bulls going every single year when Jordan was there, or the Celtics in the 60s winning every single championship. So sometimes I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. But when it comes to LeBron, I know for sure. Look, I'm the biggest LeBron fan out there for good reason. He's the best player I've ever seen. We were having a conversation in the break about Sidney Crosby and Ovechkin, and one of the arguments for Ovechkin you guys were making was that he was physically the most impressive. Crosby, he had the vision. To me, LeBron is both. He's the most impressive physical specimen as well as a basketball genius. I would argue he's the best passer who ever lived. One thing he does that bothers me is he'll talk out of two sides of his mouth. He'll say something very authoritative and then he'll sort of walk it back or say something like this not being a rivalry. If you observed last year, you could see how under his skin it got that everybody was propping up Curry and talking about Curry nonstop. And I get it for him because it seems like there's this desire all the time to have someone surpass him when he's in the midst of his prime. Before Curry. It was kind of Durant. You had that year where Derrick Rose won the MVP. If I had an MVP vote this year, like you had a Grammy vote, I would be voting for LeBron James for MVP of the NBA.
I think the interesting part about the discussion of LeBron is that immediately it feels like people have a preconceived bias when they come into it so often. And it's either you're a LeBron lover or you're a LeBron hater. And much like the Twitter world today, I'm not sure how much any of it is rooted in fact for a lot of people. I think it's just an emotional response. So people are emotionally charged up to hate LeBron for some reason or to downplay his relevance or accomplishments for some reason. And I've never really understood it. I will say this. I grew up a Lakers fan because I grew up on the West Coast. So Kobe obviously had a special place for me as a Lakers fan for a generation. But I look at the Kobe instance and I can look at it and have a little perspective on the good and the bad of Kobe. I think that people have lost that ability with LeBron at this point. They're so emotionally charged to it. That's why he's become who he is. He's polarizing for no good reason. I don't really understand why so many people are adamantly anti-LeBron, other than the fact that it's become cool. It's like the pop culture thing. It's just become cool to be anti-LeBron.
Well, with Steph, though, it was a little different last year, I have to admit, just the way he captured the imagination, because the things he was doing, to me, it was it was both the volume and efficiency, right? He's shooting from so far away so often, but hitting at such a high rate that sometimes you would find yourself, we're talking about how to fix the Saturday night. You're like, are they going to have to change the rules for this guy?
But I think that's part of why Steph has captivated America is because from a physicality point, even though you and I know that none of us could replicate it, from a physicality point, don't you look at Steph a little bit and feel like he's relatable to every guy? He's that guy that seems scrawny compared to LeBron. He's not the physical specimen that LeBron is. He shoots like every NBA or every basketball player you've ever played within a pickup game. What do they say? They're like, well, I'm not that great at this or that, but I can shoot from the outside. Like there's this mini Steph that I think people connected with right away, because he sort of represents what the every guy wants their game to be.
I agree with that, except for Steph Curry has tremendous ball handling that I don't think people realize. The ability to get that shot off the dribble, all those things, and shoot it from distance the way he does, where you wonder, does he possess telekinesis? Is he actually an X-Man and he's just hiding it, missing every now and again to throw us off the scent? But his dad played in the NBA. His brother plays in the NBA. It's not like Steph Curry is some random non-athletic dude. The genes are there as well. They just don't show up in the big, broad-shouldered way that maybe we're accustomed to with LeBron being the face of the NBA for so long.
But you know how it is. Like, you walk into the gym and everybody's picking up a team and they're all playing together. Most guys don't realize that they're not good ball handlers, that they really don't shoot well from the outside, and they don't pass all that well, right? Most guys don't. They think of themselves as, those are the things I do really well. And so when you see somebody like Steph that's out there doing it in this superhuman way, it just feels more relatable. It's much like, to go back to Taylor Swift, like people related to Taylor Swift because everybody could see a little of themselves in who she was as an artist, or is as an artist.
Well, with LeBron, it's hard to say you're going to be like him, right? Because yes, he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated when he was 16 for a reason. Chosen one tattooed on his back and all. I just think if you're not appreciating him while he's here, you're making a really big mistake, because
The NBA All-Star Game today.
Here's Curry behind the back, half-court heave on its way, and he hits it!
Coverage begins today at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
NFL fans, go to NFLshop.com today and check out all the hottest new officially licensed Nike apparel and new era team gear.
You got one, I got you another one.
Whether you're looking for the perfect gift or just getting ready for the 2016 season, NFL Shop is the perfect place to find a gift for yourself and others. Choose